I raised an eyebrow. Steal? Tell your magistrate to come out and speak. Lu Tian laughed. He won't see a wretch like you. I had already spotted the carriage surrounded by guards. The magistrate was clearly inside. An amateur, Ling Yu mocked. He thinks he's on a picnic. Ling Yu's voice dripped with sarcasm. Rebels, you stole the capital's grain. Lu Tian, kill them all and seize the supplies. The magistrate's voice emerged from the carriage, filled with disdain. Understood. Lu Tian pointed his blade at me. I have 8,000 men. You're courting death with only 3,000. No room for talk. Then, I sighed. Traversing camp, prepare for battle. Yes. Gao Shun responded. I had equipped the 800 traversing camp soldiers with the finest gear in the county. This sparked jealousy among the other commanders. Gao Shun longed to prove his men deserved the best. Charge. Kill them all, and take back our grain. Lu Tian shouted, full of contempt. He believed the 3-to-1 numerical advantage would crush them instantly. To the city guards, these were just mud-legged peasants from a backwater county. Kill. The city guards roared, charging into the muddy path, eager for military merit. They fought like wolves, fearing they would miss out on rewards. My lord, let me join. Gao Shun's force is too small. Ling Yu whispered. With only 800 men, Ling Yu worried about the outcome. This was my first real battle. It couldn't be lost. No. This is the traversing camp's debut. Let Gao Shun handle it. I waved him off. I needed to see if the traversing camp lived up to their reputation. These 8,000 men were the test. Traversing camp, Gao Shun dismounted, spear in hand. We are here, the 800 roared, clad in chainmail and carrying heavy shields. Tell me, what is the duty of the vanguard? Gao Shun looked at the charging enemy, his spear raised high. The momentum of the charge. Advance, never retreat. The ambition of breaking the array. Death before surrender. The soldiers' eyes turned bloodshot, filled with lethal intent. They stood ready to fight to the death. This was the true traversing camp. Let the military merit crown us. Please support the author. Generals at the front. Life and death are fate. Charge. Gao Shun roared, his spear flashing. He led the charge into the fray. Kill. 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 The 800 soldiers followed, their war cries shaking the very clouds. Their momentum felt like an army of thousands. Huh? Only 800? Are you peasants scared out of your minds? Lu Tian laughed mockingly. The city guards charged with greed in their eyes. They viewed the 800 as lambs for the slaughter, but the traversing camp slammed into them. Gao Shun's spear erupted with internal force, blooming like frost. Asterisk Pucci. Pucci. Asterisk the guards in front fell instantly, blood holes in their foreheads, eyes wide with disbelief. Kill. More guards surged forward, undeterred by the initial losses. Kill. Gao Shun snorted, his spear dancing like a dragon, releasing waves of energy. Gao Shun acted as a razor-sharp spearhead, leading his 800 warriors to tear through the city guards' formation. Empowered by Gao Shun's passive talent, ambition of breaking the array, the 800 warriors fought like ravenous wolves, slaughtering the city guards. This small force held back thousands of city guards, halting their advance, and even forcing them into a retreat. The sight of 800 men pushing back thousands terrified the enemy and ignited the blood of young Master Ling and his men, who yearned to join the fray. Young Master, please let us join the battle. Ling Yu requested, unable to suppress his fighting spirit. Go, take 1,000 men to flank their rear. They won't last much longer, I replied calmly. Ling Yu accepted the order with joy and led his troops to flank the enemy, finding the city guards too weak to truly test the traversing camp. The traversing camp warriors roared, each blade strike claiming a life or inflicting a grievous wound. Their peak solidification realm strength and small numbers allowed them to unleash their full combat potential. Constrained by the narrow mountain path, the city guards could only engage 100 at a time, creating a meat grinder where the front line was constantly replenished by those waiting to die. The traversing camp's long blades turned every reinforcement into another corpse. General, they are too strong, a soldier cried to Lu Tian. A city guard shouted this in desperation to Lu Tian. Terror gripped the city guards. No one dared look down on the 800 warriors anymore. These 800 men, previously mocked, had already slaughtered over 2,000 of their ranks. The traversing camp had suffered 0 casualties. In this battle, underestimating the enemy meant certain death. The 800 warriors were battlefield meat grinders, especially their black-faced leader, who had already claimed hundreds of lives. At this rate, the city guards would be wiped out in minutes. I will face him myself, Lu Tian declared. Seeing the morale boost Gao Shun provided, Lu Tian decided he had to kill the black-faced general. His men cheered, emboldened by his intervention. They believed Lu Tian, a peak Ninghun realm expert, would easily defeat the black-faced man. With their commander joining the fray, the city guards' morale rose slightly. Lu Tian charged at Gao Shun on horseback. Lu Tian roared, raising his long blade to strike down at Gao Shun with a savage grin. Gao Shun scoffed, his spear's aura surging. Boom! Gao Shun unleashed his full Ranshan realm power, his body wreathed in tangible white gang chi as he thrust his spear upward. Squelch! The horse let out a miserable shriek as Lu Tian's expression froze. In a single strike, Gao Shun cleaved both Lu Tian and his horse in two, spraying blood and viscera across the field. Lu Tian's corpse collapsed into the blood pool, his severed head frozen in a mask of disbelief and despair. Only at the moment of death did he realize Gao Shun was a peak Ranshan realm expert. Gao Shun hoisted the remains of Lu Tian on his spear, roaring for the enemy to surrender. "The general is dead," the city guards cried in panic. Unaccustomed to such brutal warfare, the city guards fell into total disarray. The traversing camp's fearless, suicidal fighting style had already broken their spirit before the general even fell. With their leader dead, the city guards lost all will to fight. Only 5,000 of the original 8,000 remained, and the traversing camp warriors, their blades stained crimson, remained bloodthirsty. Facing 10 times their number, the traversing camp stood firm, carving a path to the peak for me. They were a force that fought without end, and the city guards finally shed their arrogance. The peasants they despised had taught them a lethal lesson in blood. Never underestimate any enemy on the battlefield, especially if they are the traversing camp. Some surrendered, dropping their weapons, while others fled toward the prefecture city. Inside his carriage, the prefecture governor panicked. Defeated? Lu Tian is dead. Retreat. Protect me, the governor screamed. Aside from his 100 elite guards, no one cared about the governor's survival. The soldiers fled in a desperate scramble for their lives. As the governor's carriage turned, Ling Yu and his 1,000 Mingji realm warriors appeared at the rear. Ling Yu commanded coldly, "Surrender and live. Resist and die." His troops roared the ultimatum like thunder, shattering the remaining morale of the city guards. Seeing the trap, the governor wailed, "Why did I attack Blackstone County? This was a fatal mistake." He was consumed by regret for letting his hatred of me lead him to this ruin. Trapped between two forces, the city guards threw down their weapons and begged for mercy. The muddy path was filled with soldiers kneeling in surrender, their fighting spirit completely extinguished. They cared only for survival now. "Protect the governor. Break through," the elite guards shouted. Ling Yu laughed, charging alone toward the carriage. The governor hid inside, trembling, as his elite guards moved to intercept. Ling Yu, a peak Ninghun realm expert, easily outclassed the 100 solidification realm guards. Swish, swish, swish. Ling Yu's spearwork was masterful, dispatching the elite guards in moments. The guards' refusal to surrender was futile against Ling Yu's overwhelming strength. Within minutes, the guards were dead. Ling Yu dragged the terrified, sweating governor from the carriage. The governor, once arrogant, now looked like a stray dog. "What a coward," Ling Yu spat in disgust. It was a pity that such loyal soldiers had died serving a spineless leader. "Good man, I am a coward, please don't kill me." The governor collapsed, weeping and clutching Ling Yu's leg in a desperate plea for his life. Ling Yu kicked him away with a curse. The battle ended with over 4,000 city guards surrendering. My 3,000 warriors suffered no fatalities, with only a few minor injuries. It was a staggering victory, 3,000 against 8,000, with 0 deaths on my side, 4,000 captives, and 3,000 enemy kills. Gao Shun managed the prisoners while I rode toward the supply carriage. Governor Lu cowered by the carriage, covered in mud and trembling with fear. Surrounded by corpses and gore, the governor stared in despair, unable to comprehend his total defeat. He couldn't fathom how his 8,000 men were crushed by my superior forces. "So, this is the governor," I remarked. Dismounting, I looked down at him. "I've been too busy to visit the prefecture city, yet here we are under such circumstances." "Life is full of surprises," I added with a faint smile. Governor Liu scrambled to my feet, begging. "Young prince, I was misled by villains. I didn't know Blackstone County was your territory. I would never have dared attack otherwise." He kowtowed frantically, pleading for his life. Liu deeply regretted aligning himself with the first prince. He realized he should have remained neutral. Now his son was dead, and his own life hung by a thread. His greed had brought him to this wretched state. "Only now do you recognize me as the young prince?" I asked coldly. "Was it the grain merchants who incited you?" "Yes. They claimed you were seizing grain, and I acted out of misplaced sympathy." Liu lied. "Enough." I cut him off. "Do you think I'm a fool? I know you colluded with them to sell me grain at 15 gold per load." Liu panicked, blurting out, "I only asked for 10 gold. I didn't." He stopped, realizing he had just confessed. My eyes turned icy. Deceiving a prince, attempting to kill the heir, and slandering me. What punishment do you deserve? Ling Yu stepped forward. "According to the Changtian Empire's laws, insulting, harming, or deceiving a marquis is punishable by death. My status as the son of a prince made the threat absolute." Terrified, the governor lost control of his bladder. "Please spare me." Liu begged for another chance, promising never to oppose me again. He kowtowed until his forehead bled. I dismissed him, indifferent. I signaled Ling Yu to wait as a scout from Blackstone County arrived, looking frantic. "My lord, urgent report from the prefecture city," the scout shouted. The situation in Baishan County was reaching a critical turning point. This was one of my prepositioned scouts. They maintained communication with Yuqing Pavilion inside the city. I had anticipated both the governor's attack and the unrest in the city. I remained in total control. The scout knelt before me. I gestured for him to approach. Governor Liu watched, desperate for any news. "Speak," the scout whispered. "An uprising has broken out. Rebels killed the 500 guards and seized the city." "So soon?" I mused. I had planned to incite unrest via Yuqing Pavilion, but this was ahead of schedule. I held the initiative regardless of how the situation unfolded. The rebellion would force the first prince to divert resources, easing pressure on the Su prince's estate. Every move was calculated. However, the city falling 2 weeks early was unexpected. "Anything else?" I asked. "Yes. The rebel leader is Ding Lian, and he is constantly accompanied by 5 figures in black robes." "Black robes?" I frowned. "They are 7 to 8 feet tall, incredibly imposing," the scout reported. Such giants among starving peasants were highly suspicious. I sensed the situation slipping toward the uncontrollable. After a long silence, I ordered, "Release the governor and all the prisoners." Ling Yu was stunned. "My lord, it seemed a waste to let them go without extracting value or labor. Did you not hear me?" My cold tone silenced any dissent. Ling Yu immediately obeyed, ordering the release of the city guards. Governor Liu, overwhelmed with gratitude, kowtowed again. He wept, thanking me for my mercy. Comparing the first prince's cold usage of him to my unexpected grace, he regretted his past choices deeply. "The city has been seized by rebels," I said coldly. "Go back and retake it, or the first prince will execute you himself." Liu was shocked. "Those wretches! How dare they steal my city?" Liu roared in fury. "Go now, redeem yourself, and you might survive," I commanded. Liu scrambled away, desperate to reclaim his position. Prefect Liu signaled his city guards to abandon their carriages and retreat immediately. To him, losing the city was a catastrophic failure. Within the Changtian Empire, officials were required to keep close kin in the imperial capital as hostages to prevent rebellion. With his children and relatives held hostage, Liu had to reclaim the city or face the execution of his entire clan. I watched calmly as Liu departed. I ordered, "Ling Yu, tell Yang Mingwei to stop gathering intelligence elsewhere and focus entirely on the prefecture city. I need to know everything happening there." "Understood, my lord." Ling Yu saluted and dispatched messengers to redirect General Yang. The situation in Baishan County had shifted, I let Lu go to use him as a probe against the rebels occupying the city. If Lu died, the resulting chaos would allow me to exploit the instability and seize control of the county under the guise of my status. If Lu succeeded in suppressing the rebels, I would simply subjugate him, achieving the same goal. I had carefully weighed my future strategy. I decided to remain a shadow player. Open rebellion now would give the first prince a pretext to attack me. An early revolt would expose my hand to the first prince. The first prince would frame me as a traitor, destroying the Sioux prince's estate's reputation and endangering my family in the capital. I refused to risk my loved ones for short-term gain. I had been preparing for this since I began stockpiling grain. If the county remained stable, I would grow rich and strong. If it fell into chaos, I would recruit refugees and become the uncrowned king of Beishan. My goal remained constant: grow stronger while hiding my true power, waiting to surprise the imperial capital. Gao Shun Lingyu, sound the retreat, we're heading home, I commanded, turning my horse toward Haishi County. Gao Shun and Lingyu cleaned up the battlefield and followed me. As we rode, I received a delayed system notification. Victory. Rating, excellent. Reward, 3,000 public support energy. Benevolent Monarch, releasing 5,318 prisoners grants 5,318 public support energy. I was stunned to receive over 8,000 points. Does releasing prisoners grant energy? I asked the system. I hadn't expected a reward for mercy. Yes, as a benevolent monarch, you are rewarded for such acts. What if I had killed them? No reward. No penalty. This is the highest level system, meant to forge a supreme grand lord. It does not use penalties. The system and you are one. The system spoke with mechanical pride, rejecting the low-level tactic of punishment. Why call me a benevolent monarch? I asked. I suspected the title had hidden implications. Your actions define your lordship traits: benevolent, tyrannical, righteous, or ruthless. Rewards are tailored to these traits. For example, benevolent monarchs are rewarded for mercy, while ruthless monarchs are rewarded for killing. Rules vary based on your specific trait. Being a lord is a form of cultivation. All paths lead to immortality. I finally understood. The system had hidden rules. I had wondered how a tyrant could use the system effectively. Now I realized that the system adapted to the user's nature. It was a remarkably rigorous design. My eyes lit up. If releasing prisoners works, can I capture and release the same army repeatedly for infinite energy? I stroked my chin, calculating. With 5,000 city guards, that could mean 5,000 points per cycle. You cannot gain energy from releasing the same prisoner within 24 hours. A 24-hour cooldown, I see. I was tempted to farm the city guards daily. However, I decided against it for the sake of my long-term plans. I would save this tactic for a future, more suitable target. I noted this down, as I desperately needed stable energy sources. The monthly passive income was insufficient. They arrived back in Haishi County. I left the troops to my commanders and hurried to my study. With my new energy, I planned to upgrade my territory. My strategy was a virtuous cycle: expand, gain population, earn energy, upgrade, and conquer more. As I entered, Linganur approached. My lord, Su Bo says the tobacco and grain seeds are planted. The extra grain you requested is ready. When shall we use it? She massaged my shoulders, unaware of the battle I had just fought. She would have been terrified had she known. Tell him there is no rush, I said, closing my eyes. I will speak with him later. My tobacco matured in 1.5 months, and the all things spirit grain produced 4 harvests a year. I planned to use the tobacco for cigarettes and the grain for brewing. With additives from the Myriad Realms Mall, my products would be unmatched. I had intended to use these for profit, but current events forced a delay. Anur, go warm some tea, I ordered. She bowed and left. After Linganur left, I opened the system interface to upgrade my territory. Eager to grow stronger, I issued the command. The screen displayed territory upgrading. A milky glow shimmered as data streams cascaded down the screen. Minutes later, the interface refreshed, displaying the territory's updated attributes. Before I could inspect them, the system bombarded me with notifications. Ding. Territory upgrade successful. Ding. Territory reached level 1. Reward, 1 lottery draw. Ding. Territory reached level 1. Reward, 1 summon from the Lord's altar. Ding. Territory reached level 1. New virtual buildings and level 1 Myriad Realms mall access unlocked. Check details for new items. I grinned, my eyes narrowing in satisfaction. Territory, Haishi County. Owner, I. Level 1. Next upgrade, 100,000 public support energy. Population, 65,354. Military, 800 traversing camp, Beauty Realm. 5,000 Mingji Realm warriors, 1,200 regular soldiers. Public support, 86, status, favorable. Current energy, 3,508. Monthly gain, 5,620. Buildings, Lord's Altar, level 0 barracks. Lord's Altar, summon a peak strength, 100% loyal general from the Myriad Realms. Cost, 1 million energy or 1 summon token. Lord's Altar, Kant, can activate or re-roll general talents for 100,000 energy. Level 0 barracks. Train special units using blueprints. Cost varies by unit. Upgrade cost, 10,000 energy. Though the territory looked the same, I now had access to new buildings and premium items in the mall. Sighing at my low energy reserves, I closed the menu. I initiated the colorful roulette. Stop, I commanded. Ding. Reward, 10 low-grade public sentiment pills. I chuckled. I already had one in my inventory. I planned to hoard these pills to maximize their impact later. I needed to complete a specific task before using them. Stowing the pills, I opened the Lord's Altar. The altar image appeared, rotating with an arcane aura. Begin summoning. I ordered. Consuming token, summoning Myriad Realms General. The altar glowed with increasing intensity. I hoped for an administrator or a military strategist to aid Haishi County. The altar displayed various silhouettes. One figure appeared, a woman, elegant and poised, with a voice like a bird and the temperament of an orchid. 10 minutes later, the light faded, and the system announced the result. Ding. Summon successful. The system displayed her profile. Name, Shengwan Wanner. Age, 26. Race, human. Loyalty, 100. Quality, famous general, civil official. Strength, none. Skills, none. Talents, flawless administration. Passive, ensures error-free governance. Efficiency, passive, boosts administrative speed. I was stunned. It was Shengwan Wanner, the legendary female prime minister and aide to Wu Zetian. I was taken aback. She was a political genius, a poet, and a legendary personal secretary. A personal secretary attached to the ruler. They handled state affairs while being physically close to the monarch, a classic secretary role. I coughed, feeling embarrassed by my wandering thoughts. I checked her background. She was from a parallel timeline, not the tragic figure from history. She was an independent version, unburdened by a previous ruler. She was powerful, clear-minded, and virtuous. The system then offered a blunt suggestion. Shengwan Wanner is a virtuous maiden of high quality. Since you haven't taken Lingener, perhaps you should consider her for an heir. The system was seriously concerned about my lineage, assuming I disliked Lingener. Mind your own business. I slammed the screen shut. Human reproduction requires mutual affection. Do you think I'm an animal? I muttered to myself, needing a break from the nagging system. The system, lacking human emotion, didn't understand why its logical advice was rejected. It simply couldn't grasp human sentiment. Lingener entered with warm tea, serving me gently. Master, be careful, it's hot. Her shy, blushing face was endearing, and I felt a surge of protectiveness. Influenced by the system's words, I looked at her with a new, intense gaze. It was the look of a man appraising a woman, penetrating and heart-stirring. Lingener blushed, her heart racing. Anur, you are beautiful, I praised. Lingener whispered, Anur is yours. You can look as long as you like. I felt my desire stir. She was gentle and shy, truly captivating. I wondered briefly how she compared to Shengwan Wanner. I sipped my tea, maintaining a calm facade. Lingener stood by, trembling with shyness as she poured. Oh, startled, she spilled tea on her white dress. The fabric turned translucent, revealing her red undergarments. Master, I'm so clumsy, let me clean this up. Lingener scrambled to clean the desk, her face flushed with guilt as she accidentally smudged my important documents with tea. Oh no, it's all my fault. Master, please punish me, she cried, looking genuinely distressed. The documents were vital, containing maps, intelligence, and defense data for Baishan County. Fine, how shall I punish you? My voice turned husky. I pulled her into my lap, enjoying the soft, fragrant embrace. As my personal maid, her clear affection made it hard for me to remain indifferent. Blushing deeply, Lingener lowered her head, whispering, "I will accept whatever punishment you choose, master." Her shy, devoted expression ignited a fire within me. Just as the atmosphere grew intimate, a servant's voice interrupted from outside. "Lord, a woman has arrived at the county gates asking for you. Subo has escorted her to the main hall." The servant spoke with utmost respect. "A woman?" I smiled. It was Shangwan Wanner. Summoned generals always arrive through external means rather than appearing directly at the Lord's altar. "Master, a guest is here," Lingener whispered, reluctant to leave my arms, though she knew I had business to attend to. "Go on, get up, silly girl." I patted her, and she stood up, suppressing her lingering shyness. After she straightened my robes, I headed to the hall. Upon entering, I saw a woman sitting there. She was in her prime, dressed in white embroidered with butterfly patterns, her hair styled with delicate tassels. Her eyes were cool yet piercing, her skin flawless, and her demeanor possessed a blend of dignified charm and ethereal grace. I was stunned. She was a peerless beauty, rivaling the Sioux sisters. "Wanner greets the Lord." Shangwan Wanner stood up, bowing with graceful, submissive respect. Her willow-like brows and peach blossom eyes exuded a captivating, bone-deep charm. "You are Shangwan Wanner." I walked over, eyeing her with interest. Having such a stunning official would certainly make administrative work more pleasant. "I am, my lord." She spoke with the gentle, refined air of a noble lady. "Good. Call me young master from now on." I sat down and summoned the other Haishi County leaders. I introduced Wanner and immediately transferred all fiscal, agricultural, and legal administrative duties from Subo to her. Since system summoned generals were perfectly loyal, I trusted her completely with internal affairs. Subo, preferring his role as a butler over governance, had no objections. However, he worried the delicate girl might be overwhelmed by the workload. I waved him off with a confident smile. "She will handle it." With her dual talents, she was a master administrator. Managing a single county would be effortless for her. Though curious about the new beauty, the subordinates kept their questions to themselves, knowing I disliked gossip. "I am new to the young master's service and hope for your guidance," Wanner said humbly. Her crisp, bird-like voice and modest attitude won everyone over. The men sighed in envy, impressed by both her beauty and her professional demeanor. I then ordered the expansion of city walls and the immediate intake of refugees and disaster victims. I had already instructed the Yuqing Pavilion and Yangmingwei to spread word of my identity throughout Baishan County. In the midst of disaster, my arrival offered the people a glimmer of hope. The news of God of War Su's son and Haishi County's massive grain reserves would soon sweep the region. This was a prime opportunity to expand my population. I placed Wanner in charge of the relief efforts, with other generals providing support. This was a test of her administrative prowess. Once they left, I checked my remaining 3,508 public support energy and returned to my study to practice the true Emperor Scroll. I had been stuck at the peak enlightenment realm for days, fearing to use my energy for cultivation. But my personal strength was just as vital as my territory's growth. As a lord, every breakthrough required consuming public support energy, with costs increasing at higher levels. For the next 3 days, I remained in seclusion, meditating on my bed. 9 spiritual vortexes appeared around me, greedily absorbing the world's aura. Though I suppressed the speed to avoid a storm, the generals nearby could still feel the aura being drained from the surrounding 10 kilometers. Aided by my innate supreme Tao body and the true Emperor Scroll, my progress was rapid. In 3 days, I broke through the peak enlightenment realm and reached the peak solidification realm, just 1 step from the Ninghun realm. Crossing 7 minor stages in 3 days was heaven-defying. I opened my eyes, radiating a divine glow. Ding! This cultivation consumed 2,100 public support energy. I clenched my fists, feeling the surging power. With enough energy, I could quickly return to the peak of the Ranshin realm. I expected my energy reserves to be depleted, but the system had accumulated new notifications during my seclusion. Ding. Congratulations. Received 3,815 refugees. Gained 3,815 public support energy. Ding. Congratulations. Received 4,916 refugees. Gained 4,916 public support energy. Ding. Congratulations. Received 4,698 refugees. Gained 4,698 public support energy. Ding. Warning. High influx of refugees has lowered public support degree by 20 points. Ding. Congratulations. Shangwan Wanner's policies have increased public support degree by 10 points. I was stunned by the flood of updates. I questioned Ling and about the events of the past 3 days in Haishi County. Under the propaganda of Yang Mingwei and Yuqing Pavilion, refugees from Beishan County flocked to Haishi County for food. Haishi County was flooded with refugees, and neighboring counties waited to see me fail. They doubted a single county could support such a massive influx, fearing the refugees would turn into a rampaging mob if mismanaged. Shangwan Wanner, my new female official, stabilized the situation using administrative skill and military deterrence. Ling and explained that Wanner implemented a work-for-relief policy, having refugees build walls and housing in exchange for food rations issued in my name. Wanner issued special identification to residents. Refugees had to work for a month to earn this status, which granted them access to grain, seeds, and supplies. My brow smoothed as I listened, my eyes filled with admiration for Wanner. In 3 days, she had settled over 10,000 refugees, utilizing their labor to fortify the county. I was impressed by her ID card system, which fostered a sense of belonging and incentivized hard work. Her administrative talent was exceptional, rivaling that of a prime minister. Unlike me, who relied on 21st-century knowledge, Wanner succeeded through sharp political intuition and understanding the people's needs. I praised her, and Ling and agreed that Wanner was highly capable. Wanner planned to reclaim land, allowing families to cultivate 2 acres of wasteland for their own profit. Her policies, while perhaps not long-term solutions, perfectly addressed the immediate crisis and transformed refugees into a productive workforce. I decided to focus on military expansion, aiming to convert the growing population into hard military power. That afternoon, I posted recruitment notices throughout the inner and outer cities. The decree announced a general military draft to support the people. All healthy men over 18, regardless of origin, were eligible to enlist. Recruits were promised 3 silver coins, a load of grain monthly, and 3 meals a day, including meat, to ensure loyalty. The promise of food drove the people into a frenzy of support for me. Inner-city residents, having been well treated by me, were eager to serve. Even without the food, they were loyal. The rations were an added bonus. The promise of 3 meals a day felt like extreme luxury to the starving populace. The inclusion of meat in the diet was a massive incentive for families who hadn't tasted it in years. They recognized my generosity as a reflection of my father, Su Long. The people trusted that I, like my father, would care for my soldiers. The refugees were equally ecstatic, and the city was filled with cheers. The recruitment drive eased the pressure on Wanner, with new recruits handed over to Gao Shun for training. I leveraged my grain reserves to absorb the population, turning them into soldiers and laborers. In a famine, the one with food is the leader. My generosity made me the natural choice. In 7 days, Haishi County's population surged by 38,674, exceeding 100,000, nearly half the size of the prefecture city. I gained 1 point of public support energy for every refugee absorbed. I gained 38,674 energy points, and the public support degree stabilized at 85. Over 40,000 people had signed up for the military, showing unprecedented enthusiasm. With 85 public support, Gao Shun and Su Nan selected 10,000 elite recruits for intensive training. As the month ended, I prepared for the new cycle of energy. I planned to use my 11 low-grade public sentiment pills to boost my military strength. The system notified me of the new month's energy, 8,842 points. The influx of refugees and high public support resulted in a significant energy gain. I immediately activated the 11 pills. The pills doubled the monthly energy gain. The 11 pills were consumed. The system confirmed a gain of 194,524 public support energy. The strategy of waiting until after the population surged to use the pills proved highly effective. I felt a surge of excitement. With my existing reserves, my total reached 256,877 public support energy. Seeing the massive total, I was overjoyed. Everything had gone according to plan. I drank some cold tea to calm my excitement. I then accessed the system's building list to construct the system blacksmith shop and the energy blender. The system blacksmith shop allowed for tech research and the purchase of gear using energy. The energy blender converted energy-containing items into public support energy. These buildings would enhance my soldiers' combat power and provide a new source of energy from my stockpiled crystals and ores. I ordered the construction of both. The system deducted 20,000 energy points and began the process. The buildings existed in a virtual space but exerted their effects on the main plane. I could manifest these buildings in the physical world whenever necessary. The system's rules allow me to store buildings in my virtual territory, deploying them only when needed. 10 minutes later, the system blacksmith shop and energy blender were completed. I opened the blacksmith shop and upgraded the military options. Primary attack increases soldiers' attack power by 10%, costing 1,000 public support energy. Primary defense increases soldiers' defense by 10%, costing 1,000 public support energy. High morale. Soldiers' morale never drops. They become immune to intimidation by high-level enemy generals, and the chance of routs after heavy casualties is reduced. Costs 5,000 public support energy. These 7,000 points of public support energy permanently boosted the strength of all my troops, including future recruits. It was a worthy investment. I also used the shop to upgrade internal affairs. Stable public support reduces the rate of decline in public support, costing 20,000 public support energy. Accelerated reproduction eliminates infertility among the populace and encourages larger families, costing 10,000 public support energy. These technologies focus on stability and long-term development. I cannot rely on refugees forever. Internal population growth is vital, similar to pronatalist policies. These technologies should suffice for now. I mused, still having energy left to strengthen my 10,000 new recruits. Open System Mall. I commanded. The interface appeared. I immediately purchased an item I had long coveted. I bought the Huban Army Troop Blueprint, an elite force from the Shangzhou Plain, famous for King Wu's conquest. Every soldier can wrestle tigers and wolves. Cost: 50,000 public support energy. This blueprint is superior to the traversing camp and allows for upgrades, eventually capable of producing elite guards for Yangjian. This was the army led by Erlang Shun before his ascension, a rare super army requiring relatively low energy. I smiled. While I couldn't summon generals like Yang Jian yet, the Huban army was an excellent start. The next morning, I ordered Su Nan to assemble the 10,000 new recruits and the original soldiers of Haishi County. Su Nan, despite his physical disability, was chosen to lead the 11,200 men due to his loyalty and extensive combat experience. I entrusted the Huban army to him. After applying the Huban Army Troop Blueprint to the barracks, I began the reinforcement process. Over the next half-month, as refugee arrivals slowed, I transformed my soldiers into the Huban army. I attributed the power boost to secret techniques of the Su Prince's estate, and the soldiers, now fully loyal, believed me implicitly. Each Huban soldier costs 1 public support energy to upgrade, reaching the first stage of the Ninghun realm. This was incredibly powerful, a force of 10,000 Ninghun warriors, rivaling the Su Prince's Black Jade Cavalry. To help Su Nan manage them, I purchased Lord Servant Intermediate Realm Pill and Low-Grade Awakening Soul Pill. Spending 20,000 public support energy, I raised Su Nan from Beauty Realm Stage 9 to the peak of the Ninghun realm and upgraded his status from Common General to Good General. Su Nan was now a formidable commander, capable of serving me despite his disability. Su Nan was deeply moved by this promotion and trust. He had once believed he was destined to be a mere foot soldier, even after becoming a disabled guard. Yet, he had remained loyal, willing to sacrifice his life for me. Now, granted a chance to return to the battlefield, He knelt, tears in his eyes. "I thank my lord for this grace. I shall serve you with my life." He roared this out while kneeling. A veteran from the lowest rungs of the empire, he had been a forgotten, disabled man. I had changed his fate, allowing his heroic spirit to shine in Haishi County. Sunan knelt before the study for a full day and night, his forehead bruised in gratitude. Few emperors on the Four Directions continent could inspire such genuine devotion. My benevolence toward my subordinates created a core of iron-willed men willing to die for me. With Haishi County's affairs stabilizing, I felt a sense of relief. I sat in my study, calculating my remaining resources. After my massive spending spree, I had 118,677 public support energy remaining. I had spent more than half. Should I check them all for more? I pondered. I hesitated, fearing that advancing too quickly might destabilize the territory's foundation. As I weighed my options, a servant burst into the study. "What is the meaning of this?" I frowned. I knew the servants would only intrude for a dire emergency. It's bad." The servant knelt, trembling. "My lord, it's a disaster." My heart sank. My first thought was a refugee revolt, but I dismissed it. With public support at 85, a revolt was impossible. I treated everyone equally. "What happened?" I demanded. "Bandits have raided the outer city, stealing grain and killing many." I frowned. Bandits were expected given the chaotic state of Baishan County. Haishi County was known for having the only grain in the region. There are thousands of them. They took the grain and kidnapped villagers, demanding you pay a ransom in grain or they will kill them. My eyes sharpened. "Is there anything else?" "Speak." The servant choked out. "Young master, Lingener went to the city gates this morning to distribute grain on your behalf. The bandits attacked during the guard shift change. Lingener, she was captured." The servant dared not look up. Lingener handled most of my daily affairs and public relations. She was the woman closest to me, and the people of Haishi County already viewed her as my consort. Upon learning Lingener had been abducted by bandits, I roared in fury and surged to my feet. A cold, powerful aura erupted from me, my dark eyes burning with palpable rage. How dare mere bandits provoke me? My face darkened with murderous intent. They dare kidnap my people? They have a death wish. I snapped as a servant trembled, begging for mercy. The servant kowtowed in terror, fearing my wrath would fall upon him. Ignoring him, I grabbed the Jinhuang precious sword and stormed out of the study. "Prepare my horse." My chilling command sent shivers through the household. The Lord was truly enraged. I mounted my steed and galloped toward the outer city of Haishi County. Citizens watched in curiosity, wondering what had driven their lord to such haste. I reached the unfinished outer walls in an instant. Ling Yu, Yang Mingwei, and other high-ranking officials were gathered there, their faces anxious amidst a crowd of worried citizens. The scene was chaotic, stained with blood and the bodies of fallen civilians. "I must save my sister," Ling Yu growled, gripping his spear. "Are you mad? Without an order, that's a military offense," a comrade warned. Sunan, who had alerted me, held Ling Yu back, urging restraint. "She's my sister," Ling Yu roared, his face twisted in agony. "She is the Lord's woman. We are just as desperate as you, but we must protect his honor." Sunan countered. As they argued, Gao Shun announced, "The Lord is here." I arrived on horseback, my expression grim and my sword at my side. I reined in my mount with a sharp tug. The horse reared, and I dismounted with practiced, fluid grace. "My lord," the crowd cried out. Ling Yu and Yang Mingwei approached, their faces filled with shame and gloom. The abduction of the Lord's personal maid was a humiliation that hung heavy in the air. I approached them, my lips pressed into a thin, cold line. I suddenly raised my hand and struck Yang Mingwei across the face, then did the same to Ling Yu. The crowd stood stunned by the sudden violence. "Yang Mingwei, your 3,000 scouts are useless. You failed to detect the enemy. You will take 100 lashes after we recover the people." "It is my fault, my lord," Yang Mingwei replied, bowing his head in shame. Most scouts had been deployed elsewhere, leaving a blind spot near Haishi County. They had underestimated the audacity of the bandits, but Yang Mingwei accepted his failure. I turned to Ling Yu, my eyes icy. "As a city defense officer, you let them slip through, then lost your composure. Do you still recognize me as your lord?" I was wrong, my lord, Ling Yu admitted, though his hands trembled with suppressed rage. I am deeply disappointed in you, I replied. I knew I had to remain calm to maintain my reputation and the public's trust. I begged to lead 3,000 men to hunt them down and save Ner. Ling Yu knelt, his voice hoarse and desperate. The surrounding refugees watched nervously, fearing the Lord's anger might be turned upon them. To them, Ling Ner was the Lord's wife. They feared they would be slaughtered in his retaliation. The crowd remained in a state of anxious dread. Ner must be saved, as must the others. No one touches my people and lives, I declared. I offered a cold, mirthless laugh. Looking at the citizens, I shouted, listen well. We are the ones who bully others. Anyone who dares touch Haishi County will be wiped out. My words were crude and violent, a departure from my usual demeanor. Yet, this raw display of protection put the citizens at ease. We believe in you, my lord. The crowd cheered, their eyes burning with renewed hope. Ling Yu, Yang Mingwei, take 5,000 Mingji realm warriors and hunt them down. Kill them all and bring our people back. The bandits haven't gone far. I am coming with you. I realized then that the gentle, kind-hearted girl had carved a permanent place in my heart. Her every expression, her shyness, her care, her concern, flashed through my mind. I clenched my fists, struggling to contain my boiling rage. I was ready to kill. Understood. The two officers shouted, their resolve hardened. As Gao Shun prepared to advise caution, scouts suddenly raised an alarm. The bandits are returning. I sneered, my eyes flashing with cruelty. They think I am a pushover? They have chosen their own graves. I vowed to send them to the afterlife for their insolence. I was immediately alerted to the bandits' approach. I climbed the half-finished wall and scanned the horizon. A ragged line of men appeared, armed with crude tools and stolen blades. Only a few wore armor. They were a disorganized mob of infantry without a single horse. They looked less like bandits and more like a desperate, murderous rabble. Ling Yu, Yang Mingwei, I commanded calmly. Take your troops out the south gate, circle around them, and find where they are holding the captives. My expression was chillingly detached. I had noticed that neither the civilians nor Lingener were among the approaching group. I deduced that the bandits, emboldened by their first success, had returned to raid the county again. A cruel smile touched my lips as I prepared to show them the true strength of Haishi County. Boss, this place is rich. Even the peasants carry rations in their pockets. A bandit with a large blade spoke to their scarred, hulking leader. Boss, look. That group of refugees actually had a stunning girl handing out white rice and porridge to the peasants. We've seized over 100 pickles of rice just from this raid. That girl is gorgeous, but the boss won't let us touch her. Scarface's bandits clamored with violent, frenzied excitement. Only days ago, these men were simple farmers, but famine turned them into predators. Once peasants abandon their integrity, they become more savage than their masters. Enough. I've said it before. The women go to the prefecture city for our superiors. Don't touch them. Scarface glared, and the terrified mob quickly fell into line. Hurry up. Haishi County doesn't have many troops. We'll storm in, grab the grain, and leave. Scarface loathed leading this unruly rabble, doing so only under his master's orders. These men, obsessed only with food and women, were barely fodder. Under Scarface's goading, the 5,000-strong mob charged toward Haishi County in a chaotic mess. Scarface led the charge, flanked by a dozen towering, 2-meter-tall figures in black robes. As they approached within a kilometer, Scarface saw the walls lined with soldiers and a cold-eyed young man in white watching him. Scarface's heart sank, realizing the county was prepared. Kill. Seize the grain and the women. Scarface roared, raising his blade. His followers echoed the cry with bloodthirsty fervor. Driven by raw desire, the mob remained oblivious to the true strength of Haishi County. They had forgotten that only a week ago, they were ordinary citizens of Baishan County. I stood on the wall, my gaze icy and motionless. The civilians had already retreated inside. The fields outside were empty, filled with a chilling, murderous tension. Scarface felt a growing sense of dread, but the momentum of his undisciplined mob was unstoppable. Do or die. Scarface gritted his teeth and pushed forward. As they reached the 300-meter mark, the gates suddenly swung open. Kill. Sunan led 3,000 human army soldiers out. Orders from the Lord. No prisoners. Kill them all. Sunan roared, his killing intent palpable. The army responded with a thunderous shout as the two forces collided. Blades rose and fell, shields stained with blood. The mob's confident charge was instantly halted by the human soldiers. It became a one-sided slaughter. The human army were the only ones equipped with proper armor and weapons. With the strength of the Ninghun realm, a single strike could dismember an enemy. Their armor rendered the peasants' rusted tools useless, stealing our grain and threatening our people. These scum deserve no mercy. Kill them all. Sunan shouted, his voice filled with righteous fury. Kidnapping the young master's woman was an insult to the entire leadership of Haishi County. Sunan was eager to vent his rage. Kill, kill, kill. The human army's morale soared. They moved in 10-man formations, rotating and slicing through the enemy ranks with lethal efficiency. This is the 10-man formation from Su Long's army. Scarface muttered, shocked. It was the god of war Su's signature infantry tactic. By training 10 men to act as a single, cohesive unit, they could switch seamlessly between offense and defense. This formation was designed to counter the physically superior orcs, allowing human soldiers to bridge the gap in strength. So the Lord of Haishi County is Su Long's son. He actually knows this formation. Scarface trembled, not with fear, but with excitement. If I kill me, no. If I capture me, the northern frontier will fall. I am Su Long's only heir. Ignoring the screams of his dying men, Scarface watched as 2,000 of his mob were slaughtered in the initial clash. Terrified, a subordinate begged, Boss, let's retreat. These people are monsters. Retreat. Scarface sneered, staring at the white-clad figure on the wall. Awoo. Come, my brothers, show these humans our true might. Scarface let out a blood-curdling howl in a language that wasn't human. I, however, recognized it instantly, Orcish. Every member of the Sioux Prince's mansion was required to learn it, as they were the Orc Empire's greatest enemy. Awoo, awoo. The black-robed figures tore off their cloaks, revealing pointed snouts, fangs, and hunched, muscular frames. They were Moyue werewolves. Moyue werewolves are invincible. Kill me. Break the northern frontier. Scarface shouted this in human tongue as a display of power. Boom. Each werewolf erupted with powerful gang chi. They were all in the Baishui realm. The werewolves charged into the human army like wolves among sheep. Werewolves? They are from the Orc Empire. Subo exclaimed in disbelief. Shangwan Wanner frowned, and my brow furrowed in deep thought. How did these werewolves bypass the heavy blockades to reach the interior of the Qingtian Empire? Their appearance added a layer of uncertainty to my plans. Life is unpredictable, and the situation shifted in an instant. The towering werewolves slammed into the human army. While the soldiers were only at the first level of the Ninghun realm, the werewolves were an entire realm stronger. The werewolves tore through the soldiers with ease, their claws and fangs proving devastating. 10-man formation. Defend. Flank them. Sunan roared, his face twisted with determination. He remembered the atrocities these beasts had committed in the north. Kill. Empowered by the system, the human army felt no fear, maintaining their formation to surround the werewolves. The surviving mob members were horrified. They're orcs. These people were willing to rebel against the Empire, but aligning with the hated orcs was a line they hadn't intended to cross. As residents of Baishan County, many had family who fought orcs in the north. They wanted to flee. Keep fighting. Kill these county soldiers. Anyone who retreats dies. Scarface cut down several deserters, forcing the mob to continue the charge. The werewolves dealt heavy damage. Despite the human army's bravery, their weapons struggled to pierce the beast's thick gang chi. The human army is suffering heavy casualties, losing hundreds of soldiers in moments as rioters harass their flanks. Roar. The scent of blood drives the werewolves into a frenzy. Their eyes glow red, and their razor-sharp fangs are terrifying. Squelch. The werewolves slaughter the human soldiers, devouring their corpses, armor and all, in a gruesome display. Amidst the carnage, the werewolves even grab rioters to use as makeshift clubs, swinging them wildly as weapons. The rioters are paralyzed with terror, realizing these beasts distinguish no allies. Son of Su Long, you'll be mine today. Scarface stares at me on the city wall, licking his lips in anticipation of the rewards his master will bestow upon him for my capture. My cold gaze locks onto Scarface. Wait for it, pretty boy. Once I drag you to the northern frontier, your father will surrender, and the Chuntian Empire will tremble before our Orc Empire. Scarface sneers, making a mocking throat-slitting gesture at me. Once I breach the city, you'll kneel before the orcs. And that woman beside you? I've claimed her for my master. Scarface laughs, pointing his blade at Shangwanwaner. Orcs are known for their lust and cruelty, often torturing human women to death or using them as breeding stock. The Orc Empire is populated by pure orcs and the half-breed offspring of enslaved human women. Scoundrel! Subo trembles with rage. Shangwanwaner, my trusted official, is beloved by the people, and this insult is intolerable. Insolent beast! How dare you insult my lord? Sunan bellows, shaking with fury. Wielding his blade with one arm, he cuts through the rioters to charge at Scarface. A mere Ninghun realm and dares to challenge me? Scarface sneers. Scarface whistles sharply, and the werewolves turn to intercept Su Nan. Get out of my way. Su Nan unleashes his internal force, slashing at the lead werewolf. Swish! The werewolf scoffs, swatting at him with a claw. Thud! Su Nan's blade is knocked away, and he is sent flying, completely outmatched by the beast's power. Su Nan crashes to the ground, vomiting blood, his armor stained crimson. General! The Human Guards charge in a desperate attempt to protect their fallen commander. They are effortlessly torn apart and devoured by the werewolves. The werewolves, blood dripping from their fangs, fix their blue eyes on the wounded Su Nan. Su Nan recalls the brutal northern frontier. Without the rise of Su Long, the empire would have long since fallen to these monsters. Kneel and beg, and I'll spare you to serve as a slave for the great Orc Empire. Scarface laughs maniacally. A human slave himself, Scarface has long abandoned his dignity and humanity. Damn you. Damn these orcs. Su Nan struggles to his feet, defiant. Come. My lord's generals die in battle. They do not kneel. I will never serve a beast. I am a human. Even in death, I remain a man. Su Nan roars. Kill him. Enraged by Su Nan's defiance, Scarface orders his execution. The werewolves close in. Save the general. The human soldiers charge, sacrificing their bodies to hold the line, while the terrified citizens watch from the city gates. The sight of blood and severed limbs shatters the morale of the people. General Su Nan is in danger. Panic spreads as the citizens realize the werewolves are man-eaters and the city's defenses are failing. My eyes turn icy. Gao Shun, I am here. Go slaughter these beasts. I refuse to let these Baisui realm dogs run wild in my county. As you command, I will give my life to this task. Gao Shun's face is calm, but his eyes burn with lethal intent. I had held Gao Shun back to train the human army, never expecting an elite orc squad to be hidden among the rioters. The presence of Orc Empire elites among the bandits is highly suspicious. Kill him, that wretched peasant. Scarface screams, his hatred for Su Nan fueled by his own deep-seated insecurity as a slave. Su Nan coughs up blood, picks up a discarded blade, and laughs. Come, little dogs. Your grandfather is not afraid of death. The werewolves roar and charge. Suddenly, an elite unit bursts from the gates, ambition of breaking the array. Death is our only path. The 800 soldiers of the traversing camp charge out, led by Gao Shun. Those who insult my lord shall die. The werewolves are enraged by the interference of these lowly humans. Another one seeking death? Scarface sneers, ordering his pack to kill Gao Shun. A werewolf lunges, but Gao Shun leaps from his horse, spear in hand. Just a wild dog die? Gao Shun's spear glows with blinding light as he descends upon the beast. The werewolf's claw, reinforced with Gang Chi, slashes through the air. Die! Gao Shun strikes with the force of a falling mountain, his spear colliding with the claw. Boom! A dull thud echoes. Squelch! Gao Shun's spear pierces the werewolf's Gang Chi, cleaving the beast in two. The werewolf's remains hit the ground, silencing the battlefield. The soldiers and rioters alike tremble at the sight of Gao Shun's overwhelming power. You can fly. You are a Ranshin realm martial artist. Scarface stares in horror as Gao Shun hovers in the air. The remaining werewolves halt, growling in intimidation. The werewolves felt a lethal threat from Gao Shun. While they were only at the Baishui realm, Gao Shun was at the peak of the Ranshan realm. Barking, you beasts! Gao Shun sneered, stepping through the air with his spear, closing in. Gao Shun's dominance terrified the enemy. Scarface looked toward the city wall, seeing me watching calmly. Damn it! Why does this man have such a powerful general? It's unfair. General, wait. Scarface gritted his teeth, proposing, join me to capture me. I guarantee the Orc Empire will reward you handsomely. Gao Shun looked at him with icy mockery. I swear, my master is an Orc prince. Capture me, and you'll have endless wealth and elixirs to reach the Suepa or Wuzhen realms. Scarface tempted him with power, status, and strength, hoping to turn the general. If he could flip this general, I would be trapped. An Orc prince? Just another beast. Gao Shun roared in fury. You dare insult me? My only master is the young master. A mere beast wants to be my master. You die today. Gao Shun's spear erupted with light. Scarface shrieked. Listen to me. I'm not lying. Too much talk. Tell it to the king of hell. Gao Shun merged with his spear, turning into a green streak of lethal intent, charging the remaining werewolves. Retreat. Quickly. Scarface screamed in terror. His werewolves were no match for a Ranshan realm expert. He looked toward the wall, meeting my calm, mocking gaze. I knew that Myriad Realms generals had maxed out loyalty that could never be lowered. They were my diehard followers. Scarface's arrogance vanished, replaced by bitterness, but it was too late. Gao Shun slaughtered the werewolves with every strike. Gao Shun killed a dozen in seconds. As Scarface tried to flee, the Huban army surrounded him. Kill! 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 The Huban army, enraged by the loss of their brothers, surged with murderous intent. No, don't kill me. You lowly humans can't. Scarface retreated in fear, but he was only at the Gudi realm, no match for the soldiers. As the circle tightened, despair filled Scarface. He regretted returning to fight and his greed for the credit of capturing me. A spear slammed into the ground, blocking his path. Gao Shun appeared behind him. Thud! Scarface collapsed to his knees, trembling. Don't kill me. My master is an Orc prince. Gao Shun stood motionless, spear in hand. He was waiting for me. The rioters and werewolves were all dead. I took no prisoners. Those who provoked my authority faced only death. System victory. Plus 5,000 public support energy. Enemy defeated. Plus 2 public support degree. I descended the wall and rode toward the battlefield. The field was covered in blood and corpses as soldiers cleaned up. I arrived and dismounted. Lord, the Huban army parted, showing deep respect. The soldiers struck their chests, eyes filled with fanatical devotion. To them, I was a god. Their loyalty, reinforced by the barracks, was absolute. I approached Scarface. So you're the Lord. Scarface spat with resentment. I am Lord of Haishi County. I mocked. Weren't you going to take me to the Orc Empire? I'm here now. What else do you have to say? Scarface's plan to use me to threaten Su Long had failed miserably. Scarface sneered. Winner takes all. Just kill me. Killing you? Not that simple. I stared into his eyes. Where are my people and my maid? Scarface realized the Su family's reputation for valuing their people was true. He saw a chance to survive by using the captives as leverage. He vowed to survive and make me pay. Huh? Wanna know? Let me go, and I'll tell you. I raised an eyebrow. Consider it. Saving them would boost your reputation. Isn't that what you hypocrites love? Before he could finish, Gao Shun kicked his knee. Snap! Scarface screamed, collapsing in agony. You're negotiating with me? I leaned in, smiling. Do you think you have the right to negotiate? My smile felt demonic to Scarface. I have their lives. You're a Su, you can't ignore them. Scarface hissed, gambling on my mercy. Suddenly, Ling Yu and Yang Mingwei arrived with their troops. A scout rode forward. Lord, everyone is saved. Lady Anur is safe. We found them in a mountain cave and rescued other captives as well. Scarface turned ash-gray, collapsing in despair. Snap! His hope shattered. He shouldn't have hidden them so close. He realized I had sent troops to search before the battle even started. He had been outplayed. It seems you have no bargaining chips left. I turned to the scout. The generals did well. Their previous punishment is waived. Thank you, Lord. The scout cheered. A fair lord was truly loved. The rescued people returned to Haishi County, cheering for their wise lord who had saved them. Long live the Lord. The people worshipped me for my benevolence. System, +1 public support degree. The notification chimed. I glanced at the broken Scarface and waved. Take him away and keep him under strict guard. I needed to extract intelligence from the captive, specifically regarding the Orc Prince and why werewolves had appeared in Baishan County. I had to resolve this to secure my control over Baishan County and prevent future Orc incursions. Gao Shun acknowledged the order and dragged the despairing Scarface back into the territory. The captive appeared catatonic, stripped of all will to live. I ordered the battlefield cleared and comforted the rescued villagers. I then tasked Shangwan Waner with overseeing the civilians and continuing the construction of the outer city and walls. I returned to my study, where Lingener had been taken for safety. Young master. Seeing me, Lingener called out, her eyes welling with tears. I rushed to her side, concerned. Are you hurt? Let me see. Young master. I thought I'd never see you again. She buried herself in my arms, sobbing with lingering fear. When she was abducted, she had truly believed she would never see me or her brother again. Don't be afraid. I've killed all those villains. No one will ever bully you again. I will kill anyone who tries. I comforted her, my voice warm yet laced with lethal intent. My protective nature meant I would never allow anyone to harm those close to me. I held her gently, offering solace. Lingener's petite frame pressed against my chest, soft and fragile. The faint scent of her innocence and the warmth of her body against my chest stirred my thoughts. Realizing my own physical reaction, I cleared my throat and shifted the topic to the details of her abduction. Though I had heard reports, I wanted to hear her account. Lingener recounted the events through soft sobs. The bandits were lawless, and Lingener's beauty had certainly drawn their attention. However, Scarface maintained strict discipline, forbidding his men from touching the female captives and even killing those who disobeyed. Lingener overheard that Scarface intended to present the beautiful women to his master, while selling the men as slaves to the Orc Empire. Because they were meant for his master, Scarface kept his men away from the women, only shouting orders for them to keep moving. Despite this, the bandits treated the captives with cold indifference. When Scarface decided to continue raiding Haishi County, he locked Lingener and the others in a cave, blocked by a large stone with no guards. Had Ling Yu not arrived in time, they might have suffocated. I felt an involuntary wave of relief knowing she had remained untouched. It matched Ling Yu's report, I mused. I was a man of fastidious nature. I would never tolerate another man touching a woman I cared for. As her fear faded, Lingener's mood shifted to shyness. Realizing how tightly I held her, she blushed and trembled, whispering, "Young master." "Yes." I looked down, smiling. "Don't move, or you'll stir up trouble." "Trouble? What kind of trouble, master?" she asked, her eyes hazy and lips parted. Innocent of my meaning, she could only feel her heart racing. Her body felt weak and fluid, melting into my embrace. A sudden, inexplicable longing welled up within her. She looked up at me, her expression a mix of shyness and unspoken desire. Her blend of innocence and budding allure was intoxicating. My gaze deepened, and the atmosphere in the study grew heavy with intimacy. Surrounded by each other, the mutual attraction between the two young people naturally reached a breaking point. I silenced her soft whisper with a kiss, the sensation lingering and profound. Lingener's mind went blank. She clung to my neck, feeling as if she were drowning. She felt a sense of overwhelming happiness, as if floating on clouds. "Knock, knock. Young master, are you inside?" Gao Shun's voice interrupted us at the worst possible moment. I sighed in frustration and released her. "Ah." Lingener gasped, her face burning, breathing heavily. The kiss had left her soul reeling. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes shimmering with bashfulness. "Go on. I have work to do," I said, patting her gently. She scrambled out like a startled rabbit. She was left in a daze, unsure if the moment had been a dream. The realization that she had been kissed made her heart leap. She fled the room, clutching her skirt. She left with a light, sweet smile. Strange, what is she so happy about? Gao Shun watched her run off, puzzled. Come in. My voice was calm, my composure as a lord restored. Gao Shun entered to report the casualties from the battle. The Huban army lost over 500 men to the werewolves, while the traversing camp suffered fewer than 10 casualties. I summoned my servants. I ordered them to have Su Bo bring the recruited physicians to treat the wounded. I then turned back to business, ordering Gao Shun to continue recruiting in Haishi County. I aimed to form a 10,000-strong reserve legion. Gao Shun would train them. They would handle patrols and farming in peacetime, and serve as soldiers during war. They would serve as the primary source for reinforcements to keep my legions at full strength. I currently commanded the 10,000-strong Huban army and the 800-man traversing camp. These were my elite forces. I planned to keep Yang Mingwei and Ling Yu's units as mobile scouts and support for the main legions. The Huban army would serve as the main infantry, the traversing camp as shock troops and bodyguards, and Yang Mingwei's 3,000 Mingji realm warriors as scouts. Ling Yu's 2,000 Mingji realm warriors provide tactical support, completing the military structure of Haishi County. The recent battle highlighted a critical flaw. The Huban army, despite having 10,000 men, lacked sufficient equipment. Due to this shortage, only 3,000 soldiers were combat-ready. The remaining 7,000 lacked weapons, rendering them useless. I realized my attempt to hoard public support energy had backfired. Had the troops been properly armed, casualties would have been lower. I decided to stop waiting for metal shipments and instead purchase full sets of gear directly from the system blacksmith shop. To handle future threats, I prioritized military readiness over saving public support energy. I acted immediately. I purchased a massive stockpile of armor and weapons, ordering my generals to re-equip the entire army. Every soldier received gear matching their cultivation level, Mingji, Gyuri, or Ninghan. While the system's prices were low, the sheer number of soldiers required a significant investment of public support energy. Equipping 5,000 Mingji warriors cost 5,000 energy. 800 Gyuri warriors cost 2,400. The 10,000 Huban army soldiers cost 50,000 energy, totaling 57,400. I considered it a worthy investment to upgrade the army's combat effectiveness. I already had a cover story for the sudden influx of equipment. I claimed they were pre-ordered from elsewhere. Given my subordinates' unwavering loyalty, no one questioned the flimsy excuse. I stopped bothering to hide the system's influence. Being overly secretive with loyal followers would only make me look like an incompetent leader. With the military sorted, I bought a healing pill from the Myriad Realms Mall. Costing only 100 energy, the pill was highly effective. I sent it to Su Nan, who had been wounded by werewolves. I never forgot my loyal, disabled guard. I even hoped to eventually find medicine to restore Su Nan's severed arm. My deep care for my own people was genuine. This was why my subjects and generals loved me so dearly. I also purchased a truth pill for 3,000 energy, a potent item that forces the user to speak honestly for 2 hours without physical or mental harm. I intended to use it on the captured Scarface. No torture could match the efficacy of the truth pill. I needed the truth about the orcs and Scarface's origins. This was vital for Baishan County. I summoned my servants and ordered them to bring the enemy general to my study. Moments later, Huban soldiers dragged the battered Scarface into the room. I dismissed the guards. The soldiers stood watch outside the study. Scarface had been crippled by Gao Shan, his cultivation destroyed and tendons severed. His expression was one of hollow despair. I forced the truth pill into Scarface's mouth. The pill took effect, leaving Scarface in a trance-like state. System, target has consumed the truth pill and will answer all questions truthfully for 1 hour. What is your name? I asked. Wang Laosan, the man replied dully. As a commoner in the Chengtian Empire, he had no formal name, just his birth order. Where are you from? Why lead those rioters? Why were there werewolves? I continued. I serve my master. Ding Lian provided the rioters. The werewolves are part of my master's slave group. Scarface spoke mechanically. I narrowed my eyes. Who is your master? What is his relationship with Ding Lian? My master is Prince Andrew of the Orc Empire. Ding Lian is his new human slave. Scarface answered blankly. Why capture civilians? How did you enter Baishan County? What is your goal? I remained calm. Civilians are for the slave group. Women are for my master. We came because Baishan County is known for producing strong soldiers for so long. My master snuck in, hiding from the beast monarch, to see it for himself. We entered under the cover of the slave group. The truth pill's power was absolute. Did the prefecture governor send troops? Why did your master recruit Ding Lian? I asked. The governor was killed by Ding Lian. The city guards were slaughtered, and the Lu mansion was wiped out. The city is under my master's control. He uses Ding Lian to rule from the shadows. I frowned. The situation finally clear. The Orc Prince was personally in Baishan County. I had planned to manipulate the chaos to take control, but the prince's arrival threatened my efforts. The governor's death was expected, but the prince's interference was an unwelcome variable. If left unchecked, the prince would seize control of the county. This directly threatened my interests. I wondered if the prince's presence was a calculated move or a whim. I asked one final question. Is your master currently in the prefecture city? Yes, at the governor's residence with Ding Lian. I ordered the guards to remove and execute the useless prisoner. Scarface had been marked for death the moment he kidnapped Lingener. Prince Andrew. I tapped my desk, deep in thought. I resolved to act quickly to stabilize Baishan County before the orcs could consolidate power. It was my future territory, after all. I stood up and left the study. I ordered my servants to prepare my horse for a trip to the prefecture city that night. An orc prince? Humph. A mere beast dares to snatch the meat from my plate. My eyes glinted coldly as I resolved to exchange for an item from the system Myriad Worlds Mall. Under the cover of darkness, I, Gao Shun, and 10 traversing camp soldiers rode toward the prefecture city. Reaching the outskirts late at night, we infiltrated the city through a secret passage provided by the Yuqing pavilion manager. Meanwhile, inside the Lu mansion. The mansion was now Ding Lian's stronghold, patrolled by rebels. The original occupants had been executed. The hall was brightly lit, where Ding Lian sat with a black-robed figure. The robed figure occupied the main seat, while Ding Lian sat below, acting with extreme deference. How many humans have you captured? The figure asked in broken, accented common tongue. Over 3,000 men sent to the slave group, and 2,000 women kept here for your selection, master, Ding Lian replied. Ding Lian remained obsequious. Too few. Why so little progress in such a populated city? The figure sounded displeased. It is not my fault, master. The famine has left the population weak. Finding quality stock is difficult. Ding Lian knelt in terror, offering his explanation. Fine. You have 10 days. Capture anyone. Just get me 50,000 before I return to the empire. Tell Wang Laosan to speed up. The figure scoffed, mocking the city's vulnerability. I thought Baishan County was formidable, yet a simple scheme was enough to incite this chaos. He held the local populace in utter contempt. He remained oblivious that the instability was actually the result of my precise, calculated maneuvering. Without my influence, the Orc Prince would never have gained control behind the scenes. Had the prince arrived alone, his identity would have been exposed long ago. I mused that the prince was merely lucky to be reaping the fruits of my own labor. These mere mortals are nothing but foolish, lowly scum compared to you, prince. Ding Lian fawned, showering the figure with flattery. Indeed, I don't know how Su Long resisted us for so long. If I had the time, I would personally crush him and teach him a lesson. The figure removed his hood, revealing his true form. He possessed a hulking, human-like frame, but his face was that of a lion. With golden fur, fangs, and predatory eyes, he was clearly an orc. This was the Orc Prince, Andrew. Exactly. Once you ascend, the northern frontier will fall, and the entire Qingtian Empire will kneel. Ding Lian kowtowed repeatedly, his face twisted in sycophancy. Ha! The empire is nothing. I shall make all humans on the 4 directions continent bow to the orcs. Andrew laughed, his voice deep and satisfied. The ease of his conquest led him to underestimate the human empire, even questioning his father's inability to conquer them. All humans should submit to you, master. Ding Lian echoed, dreaming of the rewards promised to him. He felt no shame in his betrayal, viewing his shift to the Orc Empire as a step up from his lowly status. A rebel soldier interrupted. Boss Ding, some people are here to see you. Visitors. Ding Lian was confused, as he had enforced a strict curfew. He looked to Andrew for guidance. Andrew gestured for him to proceed. Ding Lian asked the soldier for details. 12 people, led by a man in white robes. He didn't give a name, just requested an audience. The soldier added that the man seemed highly distinguished. Andrew chuckled dismissively. Likely a noble looking to pledge loyalty. Agreed. I'll bring them in to see who they are, Ding Lian whispered. He ordered the soldier to bring them inside. The group was brought to the hall entrance. Ding Lian took the main seat, while Andrew donned his hood and stood aside like a servant. I entered calmly. Ding Lian feigned authority. Who are you, and what business do you have? Ding Lian relished the power trip of his newfound status. I glanced at him and smiled. I heard the prefecture city changed masters. I've come to ask a favor of Boss Ding. Stunned by my arrogant tone, Ding Lian demanded, What favor? I heard you keep a lion in your mansion. I'm in need of a beast to guard my gate. Would you be willing to part with it? I spoke with a chilling, calm grace. Both Ding Lian and Andrew turned pale. It was a direct provocation against the orc prince. Who are you? Ding Lian stood up, trembling with fear. He panicked, wondering if Andrew's identity had been exposed. Collaborating with the enemy was a capital crime. Ding Lian was terrified. It seems your hearing is poor, Boss Ding. I sat down casually. I said I'm here to take your lion. There is no lion. Get out. Ding Lian roared. Gao Shun stepped forward. How dare you speak to the lord like that? A mere lord of Blackstone County dares to threaten me? Ding Lian sneered, his fear replaced by the arrogance of his current position. He felt he was now far above a mere county-level official and looked down on me with contempt. Get out, or must I force you? Ding Lian barked at me, his official arrogance masking his lack of true power. Wait. A raspy voice came from beneath a hood. Ding Lian silenced himself as his master, Andrew, looked up. Are you? Su Yu? Andrew hesitated, recalling reports that Su Long's son, I, was the lord of Haishi County. He had previously dispatched Scarface to investigate the county's true strength. Oh, the little lion recognizes me. I smirked. Indeed, I am Su Yu, the young prince of the Su Prince's mansion. Ding Lian trembled, his eyes widening in horror. He had just berated a high-ranking noble of the imperial capital. Panic gripped Ding Lian. His ingrained fear of the aristocracy remained unshaken despite his recent rise. Ding Lian stammered, pointing at me. Don't panic, Andrew growled, throwing back his hood to reveal a lion's face. He glared at me. I wasn't sure, but you were foolish enough to walk right into my trap. Men, Andrew commanded. Several figures in black robes appeared, revealing themselves to be werewolves. These werewolves stood with bared fangs and glowing green eyes, radiating menace. They were Andrew's personal guards. I remained unfazed. A prince of the Orc Empire would naturally have protection. They say Su Long is a hero, yet his son is a pig, walking into my hands despite knowing who I am. Andrew shoved Ding Lian aside and sat on the main chair, looking down at me. You wanted to make me a gatekeeper? I'll show you what it means to reap what you sow. Black Wolf Guard, seize him. I want to put a dog collar on him and parade him through the northern frontier. Andrew waved his hand with a cruel grin. Yes. The guards closed in. My eyes flashed with cold intent, though I remained calm. Little lion, you're in need of discipline. Keep talking. Let's see how long that lasts. Andrew laughed maniacally, imagining Su Long watching his son crawl in chains. Yes, chain him up. Ding Lian scrambled up, cheering. Realizing his master could easily crush me, Ding Lian groveled. Master, if you catch him, give him to me. I'll train him to be an obedient dog. The thought of tormenting a noble sent a thrill of excitement through Ding Lian. Haha, done. It's a deal. Andrew chuckled, relishing the prospect of humiliating Su Long's son. Thank you, master. Ding Lian beamed, envisioning me begging at his feet. Listen, Su. The Black Wolf Guard are all Ranshin Realm Tier 5. You're just a martial Dao failure. Kneel and beg. Ding Lian stood akimbo, sneering. Kowtow to me, and maybe I'll beg the master to go easy on you. Andrew watched with amusement as his servant insulted the noble. He derived a sick pleasure from seeing a lowborn servant degrade the son of his greatest enemy. It was a twisted form of vengeance. Su Long was the Orc Empire's greatest foe. As the guards surrounded me, I remained motionless. Time to fight, I said coldly. I ignored Ding Lian and ordered, Gao Shun, proceed. Gao Shun stepped forward, and I tossed him my weapon from my backpack. Their weapons had been stowed to ensure they could infiltrate the Lu mansion. Gao Shun caught his spear and stepped forward. Gao Shun is here. Come and fight. His challenge enraged the werewolves. Whoa! They lunged, some attempting to flank Gao Shun to reach the seemingly defenseless me. Insolent beasts, Gao Shun roared, his spears sweeping in a blur of shadows, trapping them all. The werewolves, now furious, were forced into a desperate melee. Gao Shun grunted, his spear work precise and relentless, suppressing the pack. The remaining traversing camp soldiers formed a defensive perimeter around me. Not bad, Ranshin Realm Peak. Andrew sneered. You think one guard can save you from slavery? Black Wolf Guard stealth. Andrew roared. The 7 werewolves let out a blood-curdling howl as a crimson aura erupted from their bodies. Their power surged to Ranshin Realm Tier 7, the combined force pushing back Gao Shun. The aura vanished, and the werewolves disappeared from sight. Gao Shun stood alert, his focus split between defending himself and shielding me. Kill the guard first. Show the prince what despair feels like. Andrew laughed. He was confident these guards could finish off a Ranshin Realm Peak fighter. After all, ordinary warriors couldn't track their stealth. The hall filled with the sound of wind as they struck at Gao Shun's vitals. Clang! Gao Shun parried initially, but the werewolves' strikes became increasingly silent and lethal. Wounds began to accumulate on Gao Shun. Overwhelmed by their speed, Gao Shun could only grit his teeth and hold his ground in front of me. Struggle. Despair. The Su family is no match for the great orcs. You are nothing but my dog. Andrew grinned. Soon, your father, Su Long, will also be defeated by the Orc Empire. He looked down at me with utter contempt. Yes, you Su family members are all dogs. Ding Lian shouted, reveling in his perceived victory. During the chaos, Ding Lian had scavenged a heavy iron chain. He brandished it at me. Look, your collar is ready. Crawl over here. Well done. Andrew laughed. I heard Su Long has 2 daughters. I'll capture them next. I love human women. His laughter was arrogant, treating me as already defeated. I intended to be gentle, but it seems I was mistaken. There is no need to be kind to beasts and vermin. My gaze turned icy, my voice chilling as if from hell. I could endure much, but insulting my kin was my absolute limit. What did you say, you bastard? Say it again. Ding Lian barked, emboldened by Andrew. Gao Shun, stand down. I rose, expressionless, and pulled a small wooden box from my robe. Weakened soul-shattering pill. Grants the user soul-shattering realm tier 1 power for 1 hour. Cost, 50,000 public support energy. To ensure success, I spent a massive amount of public support energy on a trump card. I had considered another Burning God pill, but opted for a more expensive, reliable alternative to handle unforeseen risks. The 50,000 points were well spent. The pill proved its worth. Yes, my lord. Gao Shun wiped blood from his lips and retreated to my side. I consumed the pill from the wooden box. The pill dissolved instantly, sending a surge of warmth through my body. Trying to run? Kill him. Bring that human to me. I want him on his knees with a dog collar. Andrew roared. Andrew's face was twisted with malice. Roar. Oh, whoa. Eerie, disembodied wolf howls echoed through the hall, making their source impossible to pinpoint. Gao Shun tensed, about to warn me, when boom, a tangible shockwave exploded from my body. Furniture shattered as if struck by a hurricane, and deep cracks spiderwebbed across the stone pillars. The sheer power of my internal force was terrifying. Swish. I tapped my toes. I left a crater in the floor and vanished, moving too fast for the eye to track. Andrew's expression froze, a sense of dread washing over him. Wasn't the young prince of the Su prince's estate a martial waste? Why did he possess such a vast, oceanic aura of internal force? A pack of wild dogs, daring to bark before me. My cold voice pierced the air, chilling to the soul. Boom! A shockwave erupted in the center of the hall, revealing a black-clothed guard werewolf. I gripped its thick neck, leaving it gasping and near unconsciousness. How is this possible? Andrew stood up, stunned. How could you see through their stealth? The black-clothed guard's stealth was peerless. Andrew stared at me in horror. I sensed a faint ripple, the movement of another werewolf. While Ranshin Realm experts couldn't track it, I could. Swish! A werewolf lunged from the air, claws aimed at my back. Young master, watch out. Gao Shun shouted in panic. I appeared oblivious to the ambush. Andrew held his breath, expecting a hit. But then, swish. I spun around, hurling the werewolf I held at the attacker. Get lost, you two mutts. Boom. The two werewolves collided with a massive thud. My raw power sent them flying into the wall. Thump. They slid down, dead from shattered bones. My methods were brutal. Even the traversing camp soldiers gasped, watching me with fervent admiration. My violence was exhilarating. Andrew and Ding Lian were left completely stunned. He had seen through the stealth again, and his strength was immense. He was no martial waste. My power surpassed that of any genius's age. It's the soul-shattering realm. You're a soul-shattering realm expert. Andrew cried out. The soul-shattering realm was vastly superior to the Ranshan realm. The gap in combat power was like heaven and earth. Andrew slumped into his chair, staring in disbelief. Ding Lian looked as if he'd swallowed filth, his expression twisted. The young prince was a soul-shattering expert. As I crushed the first two, the remaining 5 werewolves revealed themselves, launching a coordinated assault on my vitals. They relied on their pack tactics. A group of wild dogs, daring to ambush a human? My eyes were cold. I turned and stomped. My fist struck out with the sound of thunder. Boom! My fist connected with the werewolves' abdomens. Blood sprayed as their backs bulged from the impact. They flew backward, dead before they hit the ground. My slender hands contained unimaginable, violent force. Swish! I leaped into the air, my hair tie coming loose. With flowing black hair and white robes, my movements were a display of violent beauty. I grabbed another werewolf and swung it. Uft! Boom! It collided with another, both dying instantly from the impact. My internal force had crushed their internal organs. In under a second, I had dispatched 3 more. The final werewolf finally reached me. Little dog, let me tell you something. I licked my lips, my eyes icy. A dog is a dog. Don't ever think of being the master. Swish! I grabbed the werewolf's arm, twisted, and slammed it into the ground. Boom! The 2-meter-tall beast hit the floor with a deafening crash. Boom! I lifted it and slammed it again. Brutal and wild. The werewolf was unconscious, its body distorted and broken. Boom! A final explosion of gore left the floor covered in blood and bone fragments. The hall looked like a slaughterhouse. 7 werewolves, dead in under half a minute. Quick! There's movement in the hall. The boss is in danger. Move! Soldiers gathered outside. The hall was silent, save for me, who stood alone, my hands unstained by blood. Looking like an immortal in white, I stared coldly at Andrew and Ding Lian. The room was speechless. Gao Shun and his men looked on with fanatical worship. Who wouldn't want a lord who was both cultured and martial, rational yet brutal? I was that perfect combination. Ding Lian was terrified. A soul-shattering expert could kill him in an instant. Andrew was pale with despair and regret. He had been too arrogant. Andrew hated himself for leaving the Orc Empire, for meddling in Baishan County, and for not bringing more elites. Unfortunately, there was no medicine for regret. I hadn't even bothered to draw the true Emperor's sword. Gao Shun, take your men outside and clean up those soldiers. I issued cold, murderous orders. The deaths of 7 werewolves had barely dulled my rage. I needed more. Andrew's provocation regarding the Sioux sisters had sealed his fate. Gao Shun, eyes burning with fanatical devotion, wiped blood from his lip and led 10 traversing camp warriors out to finish the job. With a peak Ranshan realm expert and 10 peak Beauty realm elites, crushing a mob of green recruits would be effortless. As Gao Shun departed, only I, Ding Lian, and Andrew remained. I paced toward Andrew with chilling intent. Ding Lian, feigning composure despite his terror, shrieked, "Stay back. Dare to touch me, and I'll have my army slaughter your Blackstone County." My expression remained indifferent as I flicked my wrist. A surge of internal force erupted, spiraling toward Ding Lian like a gale. Ding Lian was struck midair, vomiting blood as he was sent flying. He crashed through a screen and slammed into the wall, sliding down lifelessly. The leader of the Baishan County mob was dead. To me, Ding Lian was merely a pathetic nuisance unworthy of conversation. "Now," I murmured, "only you remain." I stood before Andrew, calmly asking, "Any other guards? Call them out." My voice was soft yet freezing. promising the very fear and despair Andrew had once threatened me with. The tables had turned completely in less than 10 minutes. Now, it was I looking down on him. Trapped in his chair, the Ninghan realm, Andrew felt the sting of invisible slaps, his hope crumbling against my soul-shattering realm power. As Andrew tried to assert his royal status, I backhanded him across the face. In my presence, you have no right to call yourself royalty. Andrew, humiliated, could only grit his teeth and obey. Why hit me? Andrew roared, clutching his face. I am a prince of the Orc Empire. Is this how you treat a captive? He glared at me, snarling. I have the right to demand a ransom from the Empire. I don't play by those rules, I replied, delivering another brutal slap. You tried to steal my territory and insult my subordinates. This is the price. My rhythmic, stinging slaps left the Orc prince reeling. Andrew let out a lion's roar, nearly drowning out the sounds of battle outside. Shut up. My eyes flashed with lethal intent. A beast like you dared to insult my sisters? I am tempted to kill you right now. The sheer bloodlust in my gaze forced Andrew to choke back his roar. Realizing I would actually kill him, Andrew collapsed, scrambling backward in terror. Don't kill me. I grabbed him by the throat, hoisting him up and raining blows upon his face. Stop. Please stop, Andrew pleaded, utterly powerless to resist. Tears streamed down the prince's face. The noble heir was reduced to a sniveling wreck. The king of beasts was now nothing more than a terrified, whimpering kitten. Reality had taught him a harsh lesson. Never assume you are in control, for fate loves to surprise you. Andrew's lion head was swollen into a grotesque, pig-like mess. I tossed him aside and took his seat, casually stripping the spatial ring from Andrew's finger. As a captive, Andrew's possessions were now spoils of war for me. Andrew sat in a daze, his spirit broken by the utter humiliation. Each slap had been infused with soul-shattering realm internal force, shattering Andrew's bones despite his Orcish constitution. The physical agony and psychological degradation were absolute. Finally, the assault paused, leaving Andrew a broken, sobbing heap on the floor. I'm tired, I said nonchalantly. I'll rest for a moment, then we'll continue. I sipped a cup of hot tea from my lord's backpack. Playing with the stolen spatial ring, I smiled. Andrew's heart sank. The nightmare wasn't over. To Andrew, I was a demon. You know, I remarked, some of your werewolves raided Blackstone County recently. I killed them all and roasted them for my people. The meat wasn't half bad. Andrew shuddered, a chill running down his spine. The thought of a human eating orcs filled him with primal, visceral horror. Why not? I asked earnestly. My people haven't had meat in a long time. Beasts are just food. I stared at him with chilling sincerity. In my world, we eat everything that flies, swims, or runs. 24 ways to cook anything. I eyed Andrew like a butcher inspecting livestock. Tell me, would lion meat be more tender? Shall we test my 24 recipes on you? Andrew trembled. The man before him was a monster who viewed him as a meal. He had never imagined a human would dare consume an orc. 24 ways. Andrew stammered, his voice thick with despair. This young master of the Sioux Prince's mansion was a terrifying predator who devoured everything. Being eaten was a fate far worse than death. No, please, don't eat me. Andrew shrieked in helpless agony. He wept, wishing only to return home to the Orc Empire. The once confident prince had finally met a human who was truly cruel, cunning, and monstrous. You're too timid, I mused. Timid meat doesn't taste good. I prefer something with a bit more fight. I stood up, my gaze cold. Oh, and I almost forgot. This chain suits you. With a flick of my wrist, I summoned the iron chain Ding Lian had originally prepared for me. Wear it. I tossed the chain, my internal force guiding it to lock tightly around Andrew's neck. Perfect, I smiled. Andrew had brought the chain to humiliate the Sioux family, only to have it turned against him. The irony was as sharp as the metal biting into his throat. He was a prince, not a lowly kobold. The indignity was unbearable. Roar! Driven by a mix of absolute terror and burning shame, Andrew finally snapped and lunged. Andrew's bestial nature erupted. He glared at me with terrifying, predatory intent. I'll kill you, Andrew roared, lunging forward. I tightened my grip on the chain and flicked it, sending a surge of internal force directly into Andrew's neck. Thud! The internal force shattered Andrew's strength, causing him to collapse midair and crash to the ground. It seems this leash must stay on you, lest you bite humans when I take you out. I looked down at Andrew with cold indifference. Don't be smug. If you kill me, the beast monarch will invade the northern frontier, and your father will surely die. Andrew growled, his eyes filled with venomous threats. Driven by humiliation, Andrew regained his composure and began searching for a weakness in me. He aimed to deter me by leveraging the beast monarch and the Orc Empire. Kill you? No, why would I do that? I smiled coldly. I told you, I'm keeping you to guard my house. Dream on. If I don't return to the Orc Empire within a month, the beast monarch will investigate. The Chungtian Empire will be annihilated. Andrew threatened. The Orc Empire is beyond your imagination. The beast monarch only holds back to minimize casualties. Kill me, and he will slaughter your entire Sioux family. Andrew suppressed his fear, projecting a facade of intimidation. He realized I was a man of deep loyalty, evidenced by my rage over Gao Shun's injuries and the insults to the Sioux sisters. Andrew was certain I would sacrifice my own interests to protect my loved ones. I remained silent, brow furrowed, while Andrew stared intently. Andrew's calculations were accurate. These were indeed my concerns. I did not want to push the Sioux prince's estate into a dire situation because of an Orc prince. Su Long already bore a heavy burden. Provoking the Orc Empire would lead to constant warfare in the northern frontier. This would hinder Su Long's ability to hold out until I fully matured. Scared, Andrew sneered. Release me, and you'll gain a massive ransom and prestige. The first prince already suppresses the Sioux family, doesn't he? You're just a minor viscount. Andrew mocked the internal strife of humans, noting that if the Empire supported the Sioux family, the Orcs wouldn't stand a chance. Andrew gambled that I wouldn't dare kill him, lamenting the short-sightedness of the human empire compared to the Orcs. Believing he had found my weakness, Andrew tempted me. Release me, and you'll be rewarded with titles. Count, Marquis. I can even help you deal with the first prince. Andrew desperately tried to seduce me with promises of power. He believed a man of my stature would prioritize the bigger picture over personal grievances. As the heir to the Sioux prince's estate, my vision had to be long-term. True, I didn't realize you were so insightful, Lion. I smiled calmly. Andrew was ecstatic, convinced he had succeeded. Exactly. I'm not as smart as you, but release me, and I'll help you. I swear it on Orc honor. Andrew spoke with feigned sincerity, flattering me. Deep down, he was cunning. Once free, his oath would mean nothing. Back in the Orc Empire, he would immediately target me and launch a new war. That sounds like a tempting idea. I smiled. How about we sign an agreement? I let you go, and you serve me unconditionally as your master. My voice was inquisitive, my killing intent seemingly vanished. I agree. I will serve you as my master. Just let me go. Andrew agreed instantly, fearing I might change my mind. An agreement? What could bind a prince? Andrew sneered internally, planning to show me the fickleness of politicians. He vowed to make me regret everything, especially the slaps he had received. Good. We are in agreement, I said, my smile widening. Come, little lion, sign your name and add a drop of blood to seal our gentleman's agreement. I produced a black scroll, my expression warm and sincere. The scroll emitted a strange glow, covered in obscure, tadpole-like runes. You carry a contract with you? Andrew was stunned, expecting only a verbal pact. Don't overthink it. Sign, serve me, and I'll let you go. My voice was eerie. Andrew didn't care. He was desperate to return to the Orc Empire to gather his forces and seek revenge. Once back, he would see who truly served whom. What was a contract? Contracts were meant to be broken, just like the peace treaties between their empires. Fine, I'll sign. Andrew took the scroll, his eyes flashing with cunning. A gentleman's agreement. No backing out. A gentleman's agreement, signed voluntarily. I replied with a cold smile. Demon contract. Requires voluntary signature. Binds souls directly. Rules of the contract override plain laws and cannot be violated. Cost. 10,000 public support energy. I wasn't lying. It was a gentleman's agreement. It only worked if signed voluntarily. My goal was to control the prince, not just kill him. Remember, use your full name, I said, handing him a quill. They used different writing implements based on their cultural customs. Done. Andrew signed his name with a sinister grin. I handed him a small knife. A drop of blood to finalize it. Complaining about human fussiness, Andrew pricked his finger and dripped blood onto the scroll. Now can I go? Andrew didn't notice the black scroll absorbing his blood entirely. Excellent. I pocketed the contract and smiled. No rush. Have some tea before you go. Andrew didn't realize the contract had dissolved into black light, seeping into both their bodies. The demon contract silently bound their souls, placing all their actions under its surveillance. In a sense, the demon contract is fair, strictly upholding its terms. However, the terms I drafted were extremely unfair. Andrew must unconditionally obey me, harbor no murderous intent, and never harm my interests. He was forbidden from harming those around me, with over 100 restrictive clauses. Conversely, the only constraint on me was to release Andrew back to the Orc Empire within 24 hours. I didn't want to release him, but the contract required a mutual exchange to take effect. This exchange had to be equivalent, forcing me to pay a price to seal the deal. Releasing Andrew meant sparing his life, which the contract deemed a fair trade. Life and freedom were considered equivalent in the eyes of the demon contract. I poured tea and asked, "Care for some?" "It's from the human race empire." "No," Andrew replied, his heart burning with anxiety. He desperately wanted to return to the Orc Empire to feel safe. As soon as he refused, a sudden, excruciating pain surged through him. Arg! Andrew collapsed, writhing in agony as something seemed to squirm beneath his skin. His veins bulged as if he might explode. "It hurts." Arg! He clawed at the ground, eyes bulging. The pain felt like his soul was being roasted, yet he remained fully conscious. Arg! His tiger claws unsheathed, tearing into the floor. I watched calmly, sipping my tea. "You know, one clause requires you to address me as mastered." I spoke with casual indifference. Steam obscured my face, making me look inscrutable. "There's a trick to this contract." Andrew glared at me, teeth gritted. "You tricked me." "Tricked? I told you, signing makes you my slave." I shrugged. "I'm quite honest, actually." "So, the contract was real." Andrew trembled, realizing the Four Directions continent held such a malicious, enslaving pact. "I'll kill you." "That must break it." Andrew roared, but pfft. He vomited blood, slammed down by an invisible force as if crushed by a giant foot. "I forgot to mention, murderous intent toward your master is forbidden." I smiled. "Even with a blade, you couldn't attack me. Your body and soul are no longer yours." Who could read those demonic symbols anyway? Andrew thought bitterly. The contract used ancient demonic script, decipherable only by me via the system. Andrew realized his body refused to obey his commands to harm or speak against me. The contract's power, overriding the plane's rules, prevented any direct or indirect harm. It was inescapable. Arg! A sharper wave of pain hit, causing him to convulse. "Poor lion, why torture yourself? Dissatisfaction with your master is also forbidden." I looked at him with pity. Huh. Andrew gasped, looking at me with pure terror. He dared not even think of killing me, lest he be tortured to death. The contract controlled his very thoughts. "How many clauses are there?" Andrew growled. "Not many. 136 clauses, detailing how to be a proper slave." I smiled. "I prefer to call it the 136 rules of slavery." Andrew spat blood, filled with despair. It wasn't the contract hurting him now, but the realization of his fate. 136 rules? Was there any hope left? He had tried to trick me, only to trap himself. He was truly a slave now, bound by rules designed to exploit his every weakness. Realizing he could never betray me, he collapsed. Andrew didn't know that with the system's help, the contract was even more airtight than he feared. His tiger eyes turned dull and hopeless. I said it was consensual. Regret doesn't suit an orc prince, and you have no way out. I stood up. Andrew hung his head, lost in despair. I looked down at him. "Andrew, know that serving me is no disgrace." My aura was overwhelming, surpassing even the beast monarch. Under the contract's influence, Andrew began to accept his status. Andrew, pay respects to master," he said, his voice bitter as he bowed his head. He didn't know that within days, the contract would reshape his soul to fully embrace his slavery. That was the true horror of the demon contract. Good, I said, nodding calmly. Gao Shun entered, bloodstained, reporting that he had secured the Lu mansion. He asked me how to handle the nearly 10,000 rebel bandits scattered throughout the city. With Ding Lian dead and Andrew subdued, the situation had shifted. I faced a choice: step forward to seize Baishan County now, or retreat to the shadows and lose this rare opportunity. Gao Shun and Andrew waited in silence for my command. I ordered the Yuqing Pavilion manager to deploy my 3,000 private soldiers to assist Gao Shun. I also commanded Su Nin to bring food, supplies, and 10,000 Huban army soldiers from Haishi County via airship. Gao Shun was thrilled. His master was finally moving to expand his territory. I will clear the city of rebels by dawn or forfeit my head. Gao Shun vowed. Gao Shun knelt, chest thumping in loyalty. I instructed him to notify the citizens once the fighting ended. I declared, I act only to quell the chaos caused by the governor's death and protect the people, as a loyal subject of the Qingtian Empire. I remain the lord of Haishi, not the ruler of Baishan. I positioned myself as a regional lord restoring order for the empire. This stance denied the first prince any pretext for accusation. Gao Shun promised to spread this message throughout the county. Gao Shun left with fervor, leaving 10 traversing camp soldiers to guard me. With 3,000 elite soldiers and a Ranshan-level warrior, Gao Shun was poised to crush the disorganized rebels. I realized I could no longer remain behind the scenes. I had to step into the light. I could control Baishan County indirectly without claiming the title of governor, thus avoiding the label of a rebel. I sought the territory but rejected the title of traitor, adhering to the strategy of building high walls, storing grain, and delaying the claim to kingship. By dawn, Baishan will have a new master, I noted calmly. Andrew praised my strategic brilliance. I then demanded Andrew's spatial ring. I unlocked the ring, finding a wealth of treasures belonging to the Orc Prince. I kept the high-quality energy ores and monster crystal cores, returning the rest. Leave for the Orc Empire by dawn, I commanded. I will summon you if needed. I intended to honor the demon contract while keeping Andrew as a hidden asset. The contract allowed for future communication and summoning, providing a secret advantage. Keeping their relationship hidden was my ultimate strategy. Andrew knelt in gratitude, relieved to be spared. I warned him to prepare for the Orc throne, urging him to contact me via the contract if threatened by his brothers. I watched him with a cold, steady gaze. Recognizing the brutal nature of imperial succession, Andrew vowed to become the next beast monarch. You will not be alone, I promised. I exchanged truth pills, special healing potions, charm pills, and satellite carrier pigeons from the System Myriad Worlds Mall. The cost was less than 5,000 public support energy. These items were invaluable for Andrew's political survival. They offered tactical advantages for court intrigue. I explained the use of each item to Andrew. Andrew listened, stunned by the variety of magical tools. He marveled at my spatial ring, unaware it was a limitless lord's backpack. It far surpassed any ordinary spatial artifact. I checked if Andrew understood. Andrew, overwhelmed, thanked his master profusely. He carefully stored the items, his gratitude amplified by the demon contract. The contract had erased his previous resentment, replacing it with absolute devotion. I ordered my guards to escort Andrew to his slave group outside the city. Release all human slaves once you return, I commanded. I watched him intently. Andrew swore never to enslave humans again. With the contract binding him, I felt secure. I walked outside as the sounds of battle filled the city. I ascended to the roof, observing the chaos below. People fought for power, for the people, or for their own beliefs. The city was destined for a sleepless night of fire and blood. The sounds of battle intensified. Despite Gao Shun's restraint, the rebels used innocent civilians as human shields. The rebels forced refugees to the front lines to block the soldiers. The 3,000 elites were deadlocked by the 10,000 rebels. The rebels clearly had a cunning strategist among them. I sighed at the suffering of the people. Gao Shun's command post was filled with wounded civilians being rescued by his troops. Only my army prioritized the lives of the commoners. A soldier reported that the rebels were using civilians to block their advance. The soldier requested permission to lift the restrictions and use lethal force. He was confident they could crush the rebels in 2 hours if allowed to fight freely. The private soldiers were eager to strike. Gao Shun exploded in anger, forbidding the request. "The people are the foundation of our master's rule," he roared. I knew that winning the hearts of the people was the key to the world. The soldier remained frustrated, unable to bypass the human shields. They were loyal to me, but the tactical dilemma remained. My troops struggled to advance, hampered by Gao Shun's strict prohibition against harming innocent civilians. The rioters exploited this, forcing the soldiers into a constant retreat. With limited numbers, the Yuqing Pavilion private soldiers could not unleash their full combat potential under these restrictive orders. Damn these rioters. Gao Shun gritted his teeth, ordering a 100-meter retreat and directing the 3rd and 4th squads to flank the rioters from the rear. The soldiers complied, hoping the pincer maneuver would turn the tide. However, after a short while, the situation remained dire. Report: the rioters are using civilians as human shields at the rear as well. We cannot break their line. Report: they occupy 60% of the city's key intersections. If we retreat further, we'll be outside the city walls. Gao Shun's expression darkened. Retreating meant losing the urban battle. Gao Shun was a skilled commander, but he was ill-equipped to counter such shameless tactics. The enemy knew I wouldn't harm civilians, using them as shields and executing them whenever the army attempted a rescue. 500 soldiers had already fallen. Another report arrived. 2,000 rioters disguised as refugees had ambushed the western city, killing 136 more soldiers. The constant stream of negative reports left Gao Shun trembling with rage. This is too despicable. Who is commanding these rioters? General, I beg you, lift the prohibition. Are our soldiers' lives worth less than these commoners? Please, General. Many soldiers knelt before Gao Shun, their faces filled with indignation, frustration, and deep grievances. These iron-willed warriors felt their hands tied by the very people they were meant to protect, rendering their martial prowess useless. They had never encountered such a dilemma. In the Chengtian Empire, no one let civilians dictate the flow of battle. Only their young master, I, would prioritize the people to this extent, a trait that earned both their admiration and their helplessness. The soldiers would rather die in open combat than be picked off by such cowardly tactics. Gao Shun gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with pain. Someone, go ask the young master. Should we lift the ban and slaughter the rioters? Thank you, General. The soldiers rejoiced. Lifting the ban meant they could fight freely, though it would inevitably lead to massive civilian casualties. They would no longer hesitate. If rioters used civilians as shields, they would kill them both. As a soldier prepared to leave for the prefecture office, a voice interrupted. No need. I am already here. I appeared behind them. Young master. My lord. The men bowed respectfully. Gao Shun knelt, ashamed. Young master, it is my incompetence that has delayed the battle. Please punish me. Punish you? The order was mine. Besides, the deadline for your military pledge hasn't passed yet, I said with a smile. But young master, if we continue like this, we will surely lose. Gao Shun replied, his voice heavy with frustration. This isn't a matter of combat strength, but of sheer shamelessness. Please, lift the ban. Gao Shun gritted his teeth as he made the desperate plea. The surrounding rescued civilians froze, their eyes filled with fear and anxiety at the prospect of the ban being lifted. Lifting the ban meant the army would stop rescuing them and would instead prioritize killing the rioters, even at the cost of civilian lives. Lift it. Do you think my word is worthless? I raised an eyebrow. I dare not. But to win, we must lift the ban. I am willing to bear all consequences after the war. Gao Shun insisted. I remained silent, my deep eyes flickering. The soldiers and civilians watched me, waiting for my final decision. The people craved survival, while the soldiers craved a decisive battle. How would I choose? Would I prioritize my reputation as a benevolent leader or the survival of the prefecture and Beishan County? Kill. Kill them all. The sounds of battle echoed in the distance. The 3,000 private soldiers were being pushed back, losing ground to the rioters' despicable tactics. I looked at Gao Shun with a cold, calm expression. Tell me, what is a soldier? A soldier fights endlessly to protect our land and our people, even unto death. Gao Shun recited the military code. And what is a commander? A commander values loyalty, excels in strategy, loves the people, and uses troops like a god. Gao Shun trembled. Then tell me, what is the first rule of the Haishi County Army? My voice rose. Protect the people and the master. Fight to the ends of the earth. To die for this cause is the duty of the people's army. Gao Shun roared, tears in his eyes. This was my training philosophy. I didn't preach blind loyalty or promise wealth. I taught them they were the people's army. You come from the people, so you must protect them. If the people are all dead, what use are you to me? My voice was cold. The most important asset of any territory is its population. Without people, what kind of lord would I be? The soldiers trembled, unable to meet my piercing gaze. Is death scary? Look at the refugees behind you. If one day your own family suffered like this and no one came to save them, would you still be fit to hold a weapon? I scanned the crowd. I don't care how other lords' armies behave. My army's blades are for the people. A month ago, I was a man of cautious, meticulous schemes. I had even hoarded grain, causing the chaos in Beishan County to ensure my victory. But in this moment, I realized something. Beyond fame and profit, I truly wanted my people to stand tall and live with dignity in this chaotic world. I was a man of flesh and blood. Did I really want to reach the pinnacle by walking over corpses, leaving my people without a home? This was my redemption and the solidification of my conviction. If I had caused this sin, I would spend the rest of my life protecting these poor souls. I would show them that there was a Lord who truly valued them as human beings. I don't care about fame, wealth, or power. I only care that my people live in peace and dignity. My voice was firm and resolute. It wasn't about a good reputation. I was willing to be reviled by the world as long as my people were safe. Silence fell over the crowd. Everyone looked at me with shock, awe, and tears in their eyes. My voice carried through the night, drowning out the sounds of battle, reaching the ears of the refugees. The hearts of the commoners tightened. They felt their souls trembling at my words. They had never encountered a lord who truly sought their well-being. My lord, we were wrong. The soldiers knelt behind Gao Shun, bowing to me with genuine sincerity. They knelt willingly, for most were of humble origins and understood the suffering of the people. Every warrior was deeply moved by my declaration. They didn't need fame or wealth. They only wanted their families and the people to survive this hellish era. From a tactical standpoint, my choice was unwise, but to the soldiers and the people, my words were a source of warmth and inspiration. By risking the battle to save the people, I proved I was a true leader, far superior to the hypocritical nobles they had known before. My lord, why do I feel like crying? Wife, the Lord is truly a good man. Mother, that is the Lord. His soldiers saved us, risking defeat to do so. So many soldiers died for us. I saw one hacked to death while shielding me. These rebels are truly despicable. The rescued civilians, tears in their eyes, clung to their families while watching me standing in the street. Clad in snow-white robes with a sword at my waist, I looked resolute. Under the moonlight, I appeared like an omnipotent deity. Do soldiers only exist for slaughter, power, and wealth? If so, how are we any different from the beasts of the Orc Empire? I took a deep breath, looked down at Gao Shun, and asked softly, "Tell me, are you afraid of death?" "I am not afraid," Gao Shun replied. His tiger-like eyes reddened as he met my gaze. "Good. Take your men to save the citizens. If rebels set fires, put them out. If they kill, save the victims. If they use civilians as shields, rescue them." I sighed. That is the true meaning of war. Is war about territory, conquest, or slaughter? No. To me, war is about protection. Only an army with the conviction to protect is invincible. I obey. Gao Shun stood, struck his chest with his right hand, and bowed respectfully. "Men, follow me. Saving the people is our true victory. If we lose the people, even taking this city is a defeat." Gao Shun roared, raising his spear. "Understood. We obey." His warriors bellowed in response, their morale soaring. "But my lord, if the city is lost, where can we go?" A civilian shouted from the darkness, voicing the collective fear of losing their home. All eyes turned to me, filled with worship and reverence. They were ready to follow my command, even if it meant evacuating the city. "Home is gone. Then we take it back." I smiled brilliantly under the moonlight. I drew the true Emperor's sword, its blade gleaming like flowing water. I will lead the charge. I will save the people, and I will retake the city. I stood proudly, sword in hand. Kill these imperial soldiers. We've taken another alley. General Zhang's plan is perfect. These soldiers are too afraid to kill the lowly civilians. They're idiots, wasting time saving peasants instead of fighting. One soldier took a dozen cuts just to save 30 peasants. It felt great. Cheers and shouts of excitement erupted from every alleyway held by the rebels. They never expected my troops to be so constrained by the lives of civilians. By using innocents as shields, the rebels forced the soldiers to retreat, watching their gains slip away. General Zhang, great news. We'll retake the city before dawn. A rebel shouted to a burly man, his face full of joy. This man, Zhang Jiaoyang, was a local appointed as a deputy general by Ding Lian. While other rebel leaders fled with loot, Zhang stayed to rally the remnants and devise these vicious tactics. It's all thanks to your strategy, General, a soldier praised. These soldiers are too cowardly. They have the strength but lack the guts to kill, the soldier boasted. The Lord of Haishi County is incompetent. Mercy has no place on the battlefield. The rebels laughed mockingly, forgetting that they themselves were once the very peasants they now despised. Don't underestimate the enemy. The Lord of Haishi is cunning. Tell the men to speed up. Zhang Jiaoyang frowned, a flicker of hesitation crossing his dark face. He knew his tactics were despicable, but in war, any method that leads to victory is a good one. Understood. We'll crush them. By the way, have we found Boss Ding yet? Not yet, General. We haven't reached the Lu mansion. He's likely still trapped there. The guard replied respectfully. Zhang scoffed. Ding Lian was useless. He didn't know how such a man managed to lead a rebellion. Hurry and rescue him. Zhang ordered. An army cannot be without a leader, and the rebels only followed Ding. Yes. Just then, a group of wounded rebels rushed in, panicked. They knelt before Zhang, wailing. General, it's a disaster. What disaster? Speak. Zhang was startled. Su Yu personally intervened. He incited the civilians to revolt. They're everywhere, ambushing us. We've lost 3,000 men. The rebel cried, his arrogance replaced by despair. What? Those peasants dare to attack us? Zhang froze. His worst fear had come true. The Su family's reputation in Beishan was immense. My presence and my soldiers' willingness to die for civilians had ignited the people's blood. Beishan was a source of elite soldiers because its men were fearless and loyal to those who treated them well. For the Su prince's estate, kill these bastards. You have swords? My father fought orcs with a hoe. I'll kill you with a kitchen knife. My family was saved by the young lord. Without him, they'd be dead. Think we're easy to bully? Kill them. West side, follow me. Ambush them. East side, let them capture you. Then strike from within. Calling us lowly? The entire city erupted. Civilians who witnessed the soldiers dying to save women and children were moved to their core. A wave of profound emotion surged through the men of Beishan. They remembered my name, a leader who didn't care about victory, only about saving lives. Only such a master is fit to be the king of Beishan. Brothers, kill them. With eyes burning red, the men of Beishan grabbed kitchen knives, wooden sticks, and scavenged blades to counterattack. They no longer fled. They knew that even if they died, the young lord would care for their families. They would follow him to carve out a path to survival. My overnight kindness transformed the prefecture's citizens into a fierce militia, turning the tide against the rebels who once owed their service to Su Long's decade of grace. General Zhang. Disaster. Many soldiers' families have rebelled and are leading their kin away. A panicked messenger reported. Zhang Jiaoyang turned deathly pale, his body trembling as the weight of the news hit him. He suddenly realized his fatal miscalculation. His 10,000 rebels were all citizens of Beishan County. Their families were now my most loyal subjects. It's over, completely over, Zhang muttered. Zhang Jiaoyang whispered to himself. He couldn't fathom how the situation had collapsed so quickly. So this is the power of the people's hearts. I, wielding the true emperor's sword and dragging Ding Lian's corpse, marched toward the center of the battlefield. Gao Shun, distribute weapons and armor to the people. Let them fight. I commanded. Yes, My soldiers responded with excitement. The soldiers felt a surge of exhilaration, their previous frustrations replaced by pure, refreshing resolve. The citizens looked at them with fanatical worship and gratitude. Women, seeing their loved ones saved, openly embraced and kissed the soldiers, ignoring the battlefield around them. With 10,000 fresh, fierce Bashan men joining the fray, even elite troops would tremble, let alone these rebels. Distribute the weapons. Wipe out these scoundrels. The guards laughed, and citizens spontaneously helped distribute arms. The city was united as one, proving my foresight. The hearts of the people, often underestimated, possessed an unimaginable, explosive energy. With over 100,000 able-bodied men among the survivors, the rebels were doomed. This was the power of the people. While one man's rage is small, the fury of 100,000 can forge an empire. At the central plaza, driven by the relentless assault of the city's men, the rebels were cornered. Zhang Jiaoyang stood with his few thousand battered survivors. Thousands of rebels had already fallen to the citizens, demonstrating the terrifying power of a mobilized populace. "General, we must retreat," a subordinate urged. "Retreat? To where?" Zhang replied. Zhang looked at the thousands of surrounding citizens, his hand trembling on his blade. Surrounded by the masses, escape was impossible. "General, lead us in a breakout," a guard shouted. "Breakout my ass. Ergo Danzi, get over here," an old man shouted from the crowd. The guard froze. It was his father. "You dare rebel? You want to kill your own father?" The old man, a former Sioux prince's estate soldier, trembled with rage. "I serve the god of war. You bring shame to our family. Get over here." The guard hesitated, torn by shame. Caught between family and duty, it was an impossible choice for any mortal. "Go," Zhang said heavily. "General." The guard looked back, guilt-stricken. "It's over. I won't drag you to your deaths," Zhang said. Zhang pushed the guard away, shouting, "Get out. I don't have a soldier like you." The guard left, unable to look back. More rebels dropped their weapons, rushing toward their families as elders called out to them. Gao Shun arrived, his voice booming. "Listen. The young master grants one incense stick of time. Surrender now and live as citizens. Otherwise, my spear will show no mercy." The command echoed across the plaza. Stripped of their human shields, the rebels faced the wrath of the people and the private army of Yuqing Pavilion. "Get over here, you little brat. Do you want to die? We begged the young master for this chance. Surrender. The Wang family serves the Sioux prince's estate. You cannot die as a rebel. It's a disgrace. Get back here." Elders scolded their sons, their faces etched with disappointment. It was the parents who had begged me to give their wayward children a chance at redemption. The rebels wavered, looking at their families. Zhang Jiaoyang shouted, "I give you all one incense stick of time. If you want to surrender, go." "Forgive us, General," the rebels cried, dropping their weapons. 3,000 surrendered, unable to slaughter their own kin. The time passed, leaving 2,000 rebels behind. These were men with no families left, or those who had committed crimes too grave to forgive. Gao Shun pointed his spear at Zhang. "Will you surrender?" Zhang laughed. "The young master's methods are brilliant. I admit defeat, but my blade does not. I will never surrender. I am a rebel, but I know the meaning of loyalty. I won't regret my path. I only ask to die in this city." Zhang roared. Gao Shun hesitated, but the crowd cheered. "The young master is here." The crowd parted as I, in white robes, walked toward the center. Gao Shun knelt. The rebel general refuses to yield. "Your orders?" I tossed Ding Lian's corpse forward. The rebels gasped at the sight of their dead leader. "Ding Lian is dead. Will you still cling to your loyalty?" My voice carried across the square, leaving the rebels stunned. "We didn't fight for Ding Lian. We fought for food, for survival in these chaotic times." Zhang shouted. Zhang Jiaoyang gritted his teeth. "No one wants to be a traitor, but hunger drives men to desperate acts. Zhang Jiaoyang, son of the Zhang Martial Arts Hall. Your father led 300 men to the northern frontier, 278 died. He earned the rank of overseer." I stared him down. "And you? You stand against your father. He is a hero. You are a criminal." Zhang gripped his sword, his expression twisting. "You claim it was for food, yet your men raped and pillaged. You have devastated Baishan County." My voice was cold. Under Governor Liu, the population was 1.36 million. After the flood, it dropped to 960,000. 7 days after your rebellion, it is only 560,000. Your necessity has cost 400,000 lives. Your crimes are worse than the natural disaster itself. My voice rang out like metal striking stone, heavy with moral weight. Impossible. I only eat 1 meal a day. I gave all the wild greens we gathered to the people. How could so many have died? Zhang Jiaoyang turned deathly pale, cold sweat beading on his forehead. You might suffer, but do your men? They kill for meat, violate women for desire, and steal the very greens you claim to distribute. Did you know that? I stepped forward, my gaze piercing. My information came from the dossiers Ding Lian kept in his bedroom. Ding Lian's meticulous records had become the key to my understanding of the mutinous soldiers. Ah, you all. Zhang Jiaoyang spun around, staring at his men in disbelief. Tell me, is this true? Under his furious gaze, the men hung their heads. They were indeed the most depraved among the rebels. Zhang Jiaoyang had joined too recently to grasp their true nature, having been kept in the dark by Ding Lian. As a general, you can't even restrain your own men. You're far inferior to your father. My voice was icy. Knowing the honorable history of the Zhang family, I had chosen to speak rather than simply execute him. The weight of defeat, betrayal, and Ding Lian's death pushed Zhang Jiaoyang to the brink of collapse. I may be incompetent, but I know not to harm the people. Did you forget our vow to feed the world? Zhang Jiaoyang panted, his internal force flaring as his eyes turned bloodshot. A soldier gritted his teeth. General, if we don't kill, what do we eat? We don't want to starve. The soldiers felt no remorse, revealing their inherent rot. Shameless. Cannibals. No wonder people have been disappearing, the crowd roared. That is no excuse for cannibalism. You are no better than the orcs. Zhang Jiaoyang exploded. He charged into the ranks, his blades swinging wildly. I will kill you beasts myself. The square erupted in screams as Zhang Jiaoyang slaughtered his own men, while some fought back in desperation. Having abandoned their humanity to survive, they were now nothing more than beasts. The crowd watched in shock as the rebels turned on each other. The onlookers stared at me, stunned. Their eyes were filled with awe and fervor. I had used only words to turn a rebel general into an executioner of his own army. My mastery of human nature was terrifyingly precise, breaking Zhang Jiaoyang's spirit to force this outcome. Young master, shall we intervene? Gao Shun asked. Gao Shun could wipe them out with 0 casualties, but I signaled to wait. I remained calm. I wasn't being merciful. I was receiving a flood of system notifications. A massive cascade of rewards. System, victory in the prefecture city. Plus 10,000 public support energy. System, achievement verbal conquest unlocked. Plus 10,000 energy, 1 draw, 1 use of the Lord's altar. System, first new territory conquered. Plus 5,000 energy. Blackstone County public support, plus 5. System, effective wartime measures. Baishan County Prefecture public support, plus 70. System, over 500,000 citizens won over. Plus 50,000 energy. The notifications were overwhelming. The system deemed the prefecture city conquered, granting rewards for my first major campaign. With Blackstone County secured, I could now expand through any means, military, economic, or cultural. Kill. Zhang Jiaoyang roared, his internal force surging as he decimated the 2,000 rebels. Bai Sui realm. I was surprised. Zhang Jiaoyang was a talented warrior, and his father had served the northern frontier faithfully. I considered sparing him. The man was misguided, not inherently evil. Zhang Jiaoyang was consumed by regret, realizing he had been a tool for the suffering of his own people. He was driven to purge the vermin he had once led. Stop. We were wrong. Please, give us a chance, the rebels wailed. You didn't show mercy to the people you slaughtered. Zhang Jiaoyang sneered. Within half an hour, all 2,000 rebels were dead. The first light of dawn touched the horizon. Day is breaking, someone whispered. The bloody night ended. Zhang Jiaoyang stood alone, leaning on his blade. He was wounded, kneeling and gasping for air. He had single-handedly executed 2,000 men. Gao Shun, go tell him. Gao Shun nodded. Gao Shun approached. The young master says your family has a legacy of loyalty. He won't let you stain it. If you surrender, he will take you into his service. Truly. Zhang Jiaoyang looked up, his eyes bright. The young master does not jest. Gao Shun snapped. Zhang Jiaoyang hesitated, fearing the label of a traitor. Fool. Look at the people. Is your pride worth more than their lives? Gao Shun pointed to the thousands of citizens. You aren't just serving the Su prince's estate. You are serving the people of Beishan. Do you think this is about power or wealth? Serving the people is the true path of a king. My genius lay in my ability to focus on the core of the people's needs. Without the people, an emperor is nothing. I realized that without the support of the masses, my future conquests would be impossible. Zhang Jiaoyang stood up, trembling, moved by the hopeful faces of the citizens. These people had never felt such security under Ding Lian or the former governor. Only I had truly won their hearts. Was such a leader not worth abandoning his pride to follow? The people have returned, and I submit to a wise lord. Zhang Jiaoyang murmured. This was the path I had sought in these chaotic times. Clang! My steel blade dropped to the ground. Awakening from my stupor, I looked at myself with fanatical devotion and strode forward. Thud! Zhang Jiaoyang knelt, bowing his head to the ground. I nearly committed a grave error. Today, you overlook my past to save my family's honor. I have nothing to repay you with, but I offer my life to serve you, protect the people, and bring peace to the world. As he kowtowed repeatedly, I laughed heartily. A true man knows when to let go. Your family are all brave men. I accept your service, and your treason is forgiven. I declared. Thank you, Lord. Zhang Jiaoyang vowed. Gao Shun added with a smile. You must address him as young master now. Zhang Jiaoyang hesitated, his expression bitter. I am grateful, but I fear my past rebellion will bring trouble upon you if the empire investigates. He feared the first prince would use his actions as a pretext to target me. The imperial capital? I chuckled and turned to the crowd. Everyone, are you willing to give this man a chance? We are, the people shouted, their trust in me absolute. Zhang Jiaoyang's lips trembled. He finally understood the value of the people's hearts. Every general dreams of fighting not for cold, indifferent subjects, but for those who offer fervent, selfless trust. A general with a protective conviction is the most formidable of all. Did you hear? I smiled at Zhang Jiaoyang. The people trust you, and so do I. As for the capital, if they dare seek an accounting, I will bear the burden myself. My voice was resolute. No one would touch my people. Thank you, young master. Zhang Jiaoyang cried. The security of being protected by a true lord was overwhelming. System, you have recruited a brave general. Gained 2,000 public support energy. System, Zhang Jiaoyang's loyalty increased by 100 due to emotional resonance and shared conviction. System, Zhang Jiaoyang's loyalty has reached its maximum. I was surprised and delighted to learn I had gained a brave general. I realized Zhang Jiaoyang had great potential. Generals were ranked. Common, good, brave, famous, fierce, divine, and saint. Zhang Jiaoyang's potential was second only to Gao Shun. I helped him up, saying, Rise. Everyone makes mistakes. What matters is correcting them. A true emperor must possess the vision, the courage to use talent, and the magnanimity to embrace all. Understood. Zhang Jiaoyang stood, filled with shame and admiration. A scout arrived. Report. Sunan has arrived at the prefecture city. Suddenly, the sky darkened as a massive crimson airship descended. On its side was a bold, embroidered Su character. It's the crimson airship, the people cheered. Is it the god of war Su Long? No, it's the young master's army. The people felt a deep affinity for the airship, associating it with the protection of the Su family. Seeing my forces utilizing it further solidified my standing in their eyes. Under Zhang Jiaoyang and Gao Shun's guidance, the airship landed. Sunan had brought Linganer, Shangwanwaner, supplies, and 10,000 Huban army soldiers. Ling Yu, Yang Mingwei, and Su Bo remained to guard the base at Haishi County. As the airship docked, Linganer rushed to my side. Her eyes filled with worry, she grabbed my hand. You said you were only scouting. How could you engage in battle? You are the Lord. You shouldn't risk yourself. Are you hurt? She checked my sleeves frantically, terrified of finding wounds. She could not bear the thought of me being injured. The situation was urgent, and I had no choice. Don't worry, I'm unharmed, I said. I patted her head gently. You must not do this again. You have no idea how worried I was, she exclaimed. She had spent the entire night waiting for my safe return. Though her behavior was impulsive, her concern was genuine. I'll be more careful next time, I promised. Sunan and Shangwan Wanner approached to pay their respects. Wanner, distribute the supplies to the people. Gao Shun and his Yuqing Pavilion warriors will assist you. Restore order to the city within a month. Understood, Shangwan Wanner replied with a graceful bow. Sunan, bring Lingyu and Yang Mingwei here. Mobilize all 10,000 reserves, leaving only 1,000 in Haishi County. I commanded, take Zhang Jiaoyang as your deputy. Lead the 10,000 Huban army soldiers to suppress rebellions across Baishan County and stabilize the region. Sunan was thrilled at the prospect of expansion. Secure every county. Execute any official who resists. But remember, act under the banner of suppressing chaos. Do not declare me the master of Baishan County. My eyes glinted. I don't want to give the imperial capital any excuse to send an army to destroy us. Understood. Sunan grinned, fully grasping the strategy. Control the region in secret without provoking the first prince. I will handle the military affairs immediately. Sunan departed. Shangwan Wanner lingered for a moment, her gaze resting on me, before heading off to manage the city's administration. I nodded, satisfied. With the city newly captured, there was much work to be done. Managing a whole county was far more complex than a single town. While I kept my title unofficial, everyone knew I was the uncrowned king of Baishan County. With the people's support and military might, I was the de facto ruler. I returned to the Lu Mansion with Lingener. Lingener immediately began coordinating the transition between Haishi County and the prefecture city. As my personal attendant, she maintained strict control over my household affairs, ensuring no one else interfered with my personal needs. She oversaw the transfer of all important assets, from the household staff to my maps and personal documents, into the new residence. I ordered the plaque of the Lu Mansion to be replaced with the Su estate. I directed Shangwan Wanner to renovate the mansion's decor, favoring a minimalist, elegant style, and to sell the excess antiques and gold to stabilize the city's finances and food supply. With Shangwan Wanner managing external affairs and Lingener overseeing internal matters, the household was well ordered. The remaining generals were tasked with following orders to pacify Baishan County. However, I struggled with the fact that while Shangwan Wanner was a political genius, she lacked military expertise. Although I could manage the army, I was not a professional strategist. I possessed vision and leadership, but I was not omnipotent. My current generals were loyal and brave, but none possessed the strategic vision to command the entire theater. Even a famous general like Gao Shun struggled to manage a large-scale army. Sunan was limited to commanding the 10,000-strong Huban army, and I planned to expand my forces once Baishan was stable. I realized I desperately needed a grand strategist capable of overseeing the big picture. I lacked a talent who could coordinate the Huban army, the traversing camp, and reserves to maximize their combat potential. Lacking a true commander, I decided to use the Lord's altar to summon a new general. Having conquered Baishan County, I had one free summon remaining. I hoped to pull a military commander capable of independent command. If that failed, I resolved to use public support energy to cultivate my existing subordinates. I activated the Lord's altar in my study. A black, virtual altar materialized before me. I focused intently and initiated the summoning. The altar emitted a mysterious, ancient aura as arcane patterns swirled around it. The outcome depended entirely on luck. The altar flickered with images of various generals from the myriad realms. A silhouette of a burly man appeared. I frowned, fearing I had drawn another martial general instead of a civil official. I sighed, lamenting my need for a strategist rather than another warrior. Just as I finished speaking, a change occurred. The dragon-patterned jade pendant I wore began emitting a soft white light that seeped into the void. The light enveloped the altar, triggering a system warning about an unknown interference. Alarmed, I stood up, staring at the screen. Fearing for my Grand Lord system, I cursed the mysterious interference. I clutched the jade pendant tightly. The pendant glowed with a warm, maternal light. Trusting my mother's legacy, I watched on. The system warnings ceased, and the altar displayed new, rapidly shifting imagery. A clear, resonant male voice echoed in my mind. The voice spoke of grand ambitions to restore the world. It reflected on a life of service and the sorrow of growing old without achieving his goals. The voice declared a singular wish, to pacify the Central Plains and restore the Han. It recited the famous words of the Chu Shi Biao, lamenting the precarious state of the empire. The voice expressed deep devotion and a heavy heart. It depicted a leader marching to war despite his age, following the death of his sovereign. It spoke of a lack of capable men in the court and his duty to step forward once more. The transition from youthful vigor to aged resolve left me stunned. A poem about the eight-guarded formation and lost glory echoed through the room. I gasped, realizing the identity of the figure. I had summoned a divine general, the greatest strategist in history. Overwhelmed with shock and joy, I checked the stats. Name, Zhuge Liang. Age, 40. Race, human. Loyalty, 100. Quality, divine general. Skill, 8-guarded formation. Increases the combat capability of any unit by 300%. Heaven, earth, and man, 3-talent formation. Allows for stealth and damage distribution among troops. Talent, divine calculation talent. Passive, ensures perfect planning and foresight. Omnicompetent person, passive, mastery over all fields, from governance to engineering. Chimen Duanjia, active, mastery of formations and elemental forces. Items, Jade Bone White Feather Fan, and Wuho Tortoise Shell, which boost casting speed and provide immunity to mental attacks. I was stunned by the complexity of Zhuge Liang's attributes. He was truly a divine general, a master of all trades. Zhuge Liang was not only a strategist and politician, but also a master alchemist and polymath. I struggled to calm my racing heart. I couldn't believe my luck, though I worried I had exhausted it all at once. My joy was cut short by a final system notification. The system declared the Lord's altar bug due to the interference and locked it for 1 year. I would be unable to use the altar for any purpose during this time. I was horrified by the 1-year cooldown. I felt like a gamer who pulled a top-tier character only to have their account banned. I roared at the system, protesting the unfair penalty. Without the altar, I had lost my primary channel for acquiring elite talent. I realized that relying on personal recruitment across the 4 Directions continent was inefficient. While Marquis Wu Zhuge was brilliant at governance and strategy, I lacked the military commanders to lead my armies. Without high-quality generals, even Zhuge's genius was limited. I recalled how the Shu Empire eventually collapsed despite Zhuge's tireless efforts, simply because there were no generals left to lead. Zhuge could handle strategy and statecraft, but he was a civil official, not a frontline warrior. System. Host can accelerate territory level-ups to speed up bug fixes and reduce Lord's altar cooldowns. The system provided this prompt. I sneered. You claim to be the only high-level system in the myriad realms, yet a mere jade pendant causes you to glitch? The system remained silent before issuing a new notification. The dragon pattern jade pendant's energy is unique and harmless. However, the system must fix the bug for the host's benefit. To compensate for the Lord's altar cooldown, a reward is granted. 10 items have been randomly selected from the Myriad Realms Mall. The host may choose one. I smirked. If I could summon a divine general like Zhuge, a year-long cooldown was a small price to pay. I realized mocking the system yielded results and resolved to do so more often. I opened the interface, and 10 items floated before me. My smile vanished as I inspected the offerings. Middle school mock exams? High school tests? An electric scooter key? A plastic toy? I was speechless. Most were junk, save for 2 low-grade public sentiment pills, a truth pill, a 6-6 talisman for summoning Ninghun Realm warriors, and a Zhuge crossbowman troop design blueprint. You clearly didn't want to give me anything good, I muttered, disappointed. Rewards are based on current territory level and selected from the open mall. The system does not cheat. Accepting the explanation, I chose the Zhuge crossbowman troop design blueprint. As a divine general, Zhuge could command various elite units like the Wudong Flying Troops, White-Eared Guards, or White Horse Eat Song, all with specific buffs. The Repeating Crossbow Legion, designed by Zhuge, was a formidable ranged force. Congratulations! Zhuge crossbowman troop design blueprint added to inventory. The notification chimed. With time to spare before Zhuge's arrival, I decided to handle other matters. I used my colorful roulette spin. I received the Jinui Troop Design Blueprint, a specialized unit for scouting, assassination, and intelligence. Looks like it's time to expand, I chuckled. These blueprints saved me significant public sentiment energy points. System, troop levels are now activated. I checked my unit attributes. Traversing Camp, Famous General Level, 800 limit. Cuban Army, Fierce General Level, 10,000 limit. Repeating Crossbow Legion, Brave General Level, 10,000 limit. Jinui, Brave General Level, 5,000 limit. The Cuban Army was my strongest, followed by the Traversing Camp, with the others trailing. The classification helped me gauge my military strength more clearly. System, show territory attributes. Territory, Baishan County. Lord, I, level 1, 100,000 energy to upgrade. Population, 665,263. Troops, 800 Traversing Camp. Peak solidification, 11,200 Cuban Army. Ninghun Tier 1, 5,000 Mingzhu Realm Warriors. Public support, 82. Energy, 77,177. Monthly income, 54,546. Buildings, Lord's Altar, Sealed, Level 0 Barracks, System Blacksmith Shop, Energy Blender. The system had officially designated my territory as Baishan County. However, control was limited to the Prefecture City and Haishi County. Public support was an average of the two regions. With only 70,000 energy, I lacked the resources for major developments. Priority 1 is to consolidate the rest of Baishan County to stabilize growth. I analyzed the data. Increasing the population would drastically boost my monthly energy income. System, what is this dragon pattern jade pendant? I held the pendant I had carried since childhood. It was identical to one my mother left me in my previous life. I had assumed it was a coincidence, but it clearly possessed the power to interfere with the system. Territory level 2 low, scanning unavailable. I asked if it would happen again. I realized the pendant had triggered the bug that summoned Zhuge. If I could replicate that, I would gladly endure the cooldowns. A divine general was worth the wait, and a saint general would be a game changer. Host, do not worry. The system has recorded the energy fluctuations to prevent recurrence. The system's tone was stern. I shook my head. The system misunderstood my intentions. I wanted to exploit the bug, not prevent it. The system was too efficient at patching its own flaws. With the shortcut gone, I resolved to develop steadily and keep the pendant safe until I could investigate it later. I focused on the current situation in Baishan County. The sudden arrival of the orc Prince Andrew had disrupted my plans, forcing me to reorganize while keeping an eye on the imperial capital. Between managing the big picture and planning military expansion, the workload was immense. The pressure was exhausting. Being a good lord was no easy task. I finally understood why history was full of incompetent rulers. I hadn't had a moment of rest since arriving. Despite my general's help, I was exhausted, working late into the night. Marquis Wu Zhuge, when will you arrive? I sighed in my study. Suddenly, a servant knocked. My lord, a man from Nanshan, Baishan County, claims to be Zhuge Liang. He heard of your benevolence and thirst for talent. Before the servant finished, I shouted excitedly from within. Quick, bring him in. I, moved by the strategist's arrival, rushed to the door. I'll go myself, I declared, bursting out. 6,144? I strode out, eyes sharp. No, I will welcome him personally. Such a legendary talent deserved the utmost respect. The servant was stunned. Nearby servants were shocked to hear their lord was personally greeting a guest. Who could this visitor be to warrant such treatment from me? Outside the gate stood a middle-aged scholar holding a feather fan. He wore simple green robes, looking like a common teacher, yet his eyes held profound wisdom. The gates opened. I stepped out, eyes bright. Are you Master Wulong? I asked, bowing. I am, the man replied. Zhuge Liang returned the bow with a free-spirited smile. I have heard of your benevolence, my lord. I am humbled by such a warm welcome for a mere rustic. I smiled, knowing the system granted these generals new memories as locals. A rustic? If I were a rustic, every scholar in the world would be a slave. I have long admired your name, master. Tea is prepared inside. Please, follow me. I invited him in immediately. Zhuge Liang laughed. looking at me with appreciation. This wasn't just intuition. The system ensured all summoned generals felt innate loyalty and affinity toward their host. The two walked together, chatting happily, and spent the entire night in the study discussing strategy. Zhuge Liang provided a detailed, meticulous layout for the situation in Baishan County. His plans were steady yet possessed unexpected, brilliant effects. Whether long-term or short-term, no problem stumped the strategist. Satisfied, I summoned my generals at nightfall. I appointed Zhuge Liang as my chief advisor and commander-in-chief of Baishan County, granting him authority over all civil and military affairs. I offloaded all administrative burdens to him, while recalling Shangwan Wan'er to serve as my personal secretary for core matters. Zhuge Liang now held full executive power, allowing me to focus on the big picture. I wanted to test if Zhuge Liang could handle a prefecture. If not, he couldn't manage an empire. Most generals agreed, but Su Nen stepped forward. "My lord, is this wise?" Su Nen whispered his concerns. "He is new, and this might cause resentment. Also, the workload is immense. Please reconsider." My generals had distinct personalities. Gao Shun, Yang Mingwei, and Ling Yu focused solely on military matters. Shangwan Wan'er was discreet, leaving Su Nan as the only one who dared to advise me directly. Su Nan's concern was born of ignorance regarding Zhuge Liang's absolute loyalty. If I doubt him, I shouldn't use him. If I couldn't trust him, I wouldn't have trusted you all, I replied. From today, Master Wulong is my strategist. His orders are mine. Obey him without hesitation. We obey, the general shouted. Zhuge Liang bowed deeply. I will serve with my life. Please, take care of your health. Su Bo, find the best doctors for the master, I urged. I helped him up. I couldn't afford to lose my only divine general to exhaustion. I even considered buying elixirs from the Myriad Realms Mall. I couldn't let my strategist die from overwork. I am deeply moved, Zhuge Liang said. Influenced by his maximum loyalty, Zhuge Liang looked at me with even greater admiration. Over the next few days, Zhuge Liang took charge of all affairs. Efficiency soared, and within 3 days, the prefecture city was thriving. He deployed the reserves for disaster relief and used the Crimson Airship to procure supplies from other counties. He also persuaded local gentry to donate 6 million gold coins to support me. This funding secured the county's development for the next 6 months. Militarily, he issued secret strategies that led the Huban army to victory. In just 8 days, they captured 5 counties and 17 villages. Seeing the stability, I turned my attention to expanding my new army. Shangwan Wan'er and Ling Anur remained by my side constantly. One managed my daily life. The other handled official correspondence and orders. The locals jokingly referred to them as the young lord's 2 virtuous wives. This gossip often left both women blushing. 3 days later, preparations were complete. I collected all monster crystal cores and energy ore to convert into public support energy, aiming to create the Zhuge Crossbow Legion and Jinyue. While I was busy, a crisis brewed at the first prince's residence in the imperial capital. My lord, the rebellion in Baishan was suppressed by Su Yu overnight. He has total control. Here is the report, a bloodguard stated. The bloodguard knelt before the first prince. The first prince read the report, his expression darkening. Bang! He slammed the document down. Is this confirmed? Absolutely, the guard replied. He has the people's hearts and an army of 10,000. He controls the county but refuses to rebel openly. He's playing me. Suyu. The first prince's eyes flashed with cold malice. He realized he had underestimated this useless Su family heir. The boy was a cunning fox. Shall we send troops to attack Baishan and kill him? The guard asked. Attack him? He just suppressed a rebellion for the empire. He even sent an official report. He's a hero now. How can I kill a hero? The first prince spoke with bitter, suppressed rage. The first prince cannot attack Baishan County, lest the world realize he is attempting to murder a loyal subject of the empire. Losing public support would ruin his path to the throne. He considers sending a loyalist to replace the governor and strip me of my power. The blood guard suggests this, but the first prince hurls a teacup at him in a rage, calling him an idiot. The first prince roars that I command 10,000 soldiers and hold the hearts of the people. I cannot be easily sidelined. The first prince knows that any official sent to Beishan would simply be puppet by me instead. He realizes I am intentionally avoiding the governor's seat to bait his enemies into a trap. I have become a major threat. The first prince regrets not eliminating me back in the capital when he had the chance. Once hailed as a genius, the first prince is frustrated by his repeated failures against a man he considered trash. From the failed assassination attempts to the death of Governor Liu, the first prince feels utterly humiliated. With the situation in Beishan spiraling out of control, the first prince feels a chilling malice emanating from me. He concludes he must kill me before I become the next god of war Su. A cold, murderous intent flashes in the first prince's eyes. He finally recognizes the threat posed by the once-ignored young master of the Su estate. The blood guard begs for mercy. The first prince takes a deep breath, regaining his composure. After a long silence, he orders his troops to withdraw, admitting he underestimated me. He decides to support military advisor Nian's proposal to marry Princess Mingzhu to me to stabilize relations. He grinds his teeth as he speaks. It is his only remaining option. He feels sick at the thought of the Empire's pearl, Princess Mingzhu, falling into my hands. The Blood Guard is confused, questioning why they would benefit me. The first prince scoffs at the idea of giving away his sister. He explains his true plan. The wedding must be held in the capital. Once I arrive in the capital for the ceremony, I will be trapped and killed before I can ever marry the princess. The Blood Guard praises his master's cunning. The first prince vows to ensure I never leave the capital alive. He orders a grand announcement of his own upcoming marriage to the Su sisters, demanding a wedding invitation be sent to me. With an imperial decree and the first prince's invitation, I will be forced to come to the capital. The first prince is impatient to end my life and find peace. In the Su prince's mansion, a beautiful woman in white, military advisor Nian, reads the imperial decree. The decree orders Princess Mingzhu to marry me, with the ceremony to be held in 4 months, alongside the first prince's wedding. Nian sighs, feeling the weight of the Su estate resting on my shoulders. She is deeply troubled by the turn of events. She had sought this marriage to check the first prince's power and protect the Su family. Her goal was to use the princess's influence to counter the first prince and eventually break his engagement to the Su sisters. She did not foresee the first prince forcing the weddings to happen simultaneously. With the imperial decree signed, her plan has failed, and the Su estate is in greater danger than ever. Meanwhile, in the Beishan prefecture city, unaware of the capital's schemes, I stand before a massive stockpile of monster crystal cores and energy ores. I activate the system's energy blender in the empty warehouse. A black, square structure appears, designed to decompose energy-rich materials. I command it to absorb the materials. Black light erupts, consuming the entire stockpile of cores and ores. The device easily contains the tons of materials. I order the decomposition, and the device begins to hum. Half an hour later, the process completes, granting me 326,597 points of public support energy. I am ecstatic at the massive gain. I credit Andrew, whose spatial ring provided high-level cores, including those from Nirvana Realm beasts. Most of the energy came from Andrew's contribution. With my previous balance, I now have 400,000 energy points. I spend the next month reorganizing my new army. I upgrade 10,000 repeating crossbow legion soldiers and 5,000 Jinui through the barracks. Strengthening them to the solidification realm costs 15,000 energy points. Seeking further power, I spend 110,000 energy points to upgrade the barracks to level 2 for a second round of training. 10,000 Huban army soldiers are upgraded to peak Ninghun realm for 50,000 points. 10,000 repeating crossbow soldiers are upgraded to peak solidification realm for 50,000 points. 5,000 Jinui are upgraded to peak solidification realm for 25,000 points. 800 traversing camp warriors are upgraded to Ninghun realm level 5 for 4,000 points. The Huban army, being the highest quality, yields the strongest individual warriors. I note that each unit has different strengths. It is unfair to compare the specialized Jinui scouts with the frontline Huban siege troops. I conclude that there are no bad units, only bad generals. The military expansion takes the full month. Under Zhuge Liang's management, I now fully control the land of Beishan County. The population has surpassed 1.5 million, and the public support degree has reached 90. The people's attitude has shifted from goodwill to worship, generating 140,675 energy points this month. My energy reserves are replenished, and I spend 10 days adjusting military personnel. Junior officers, vetted by Zhuge Liang, Gao Shun, and Su Nan, are promoted to lead the legions. The 5,000 Mingji realm warriors under Yang Mingwei and Ling Yu are assigned as the city's regular defense force. I reassigned Yang Mingwei to command 5,000 Jinyui, tasking him with intelligence gathering in Baishan County. I provided Yang Mingwei with a manual from the Myriad Realms Mall, ordering him to drill the Jinyui day and night in assassination and espionage techniques. Once strengthened, the Jinyui would transition from mere intelligence gathering to executing large-scale assassinations of enemy generals. Ling Yu was placed in command of the 10,000-strong repeating crossbow legion, tasked with supporting the Huban army in frontal assaults. Su Nan and Zhang Jiaoyang continued to lead the 10,000 Huban army as the core force, while Gao Shun commanded the 800 traversing camp as my personal guard. Additionally, 10,000 reservists were deployed to various towns to serve as city defense forces, ensuring the safety of the populace. It had been nearly half a year since I was exiled to Haishi County. Starting from nothing, I now controlled an entire county with a population of 1,030,000 elite troops and over 10,000 regular soldiers. The transformation of my power was staggering. After a month of effort, I had finally stabilized the core affairs of Baishan County. Only then could I settle down in my study, using my remaining public support energy to cultivate and increase my strength. However, news arrived from the imperial capital. The Su Prince's mansion had sent someone to Baishan County with the latest updates. Simultaneously, an imperial envoy arrived from the palace, seeking me to deliver a marriage invitation from the first prince. System, congratulations. You have reached the third stage of the Ninghun realm. This cultivation consumed 8,905 points of public support energy. My personal advancement required increasingly massive amounts of public support energy. While my soldiers only needed a few points to reach the Ninghun realm, I had spent nearly 10,000 points just to reach the third stage. As the system notification faded, I finished my meditation, and the 9 spiritual vortices around me vanished. Whoosh! 2 streams of white air shot from my nostrils like lightning, piercing the air with a sharp hiss. I opened my eyes, a sharp glint flashing through them. I felt refreshed and ethereal. The true Emperor Scroll was immensely beneficial, making me significantly stronger than other martial artists at the same Ninghun realm stage. As a peerless technique, the true Emperor Scroll ensured its practitioner was invincible among their peers. Excellent. The true Emperor Scroll is truly extraordinary. I jumped off my bed, my joints popping as I stretched. Just then, a servant spoke from outside my bedroom door. My lord, an envoy from the imperial capital has arrived from the Su Prince's mansion. Missioner has seated him in the main hall. People from the Su Prince's mansion? I hurried out of my room. Worried about my family, I rushed to the hall, hoping for news from military advisor Nian. In the hall stood a dusty, middle-aged man in black armor, a black jade cavalry warrior. Sujio? Why are you here? I recognized him. Sujio was a northern frontier warrior who had returned to the capital with military advisor Nian before being sent to find me. As a trusted confidant of God of War Sujio was someone I could rely on. Sujio bowed respectfully. Young master, I am here under the orders of military advisor Nian to deliver a letter. Sujio handed over the letter. I frowned, wondering if the situation in the capital had changed. Reading the letter, I let out a bitter laugh. Military advisor Nian wants me to marry Princess Mingzhu. I was baffled. I had never even met the princess, yet I was suddenly betrothed to her. The military advisor believes that marrying Princess Mingzhu will secure the support of the noble consort's faction, forcing the first prince to abandon his betrothal to your sisters, Sujio explained. I narrowed my eyes, fuming at the mention of the first prince's forced betrothal to my sisters. The first prince had exploited God of War Su Long's absence to coerce the emperor into granting that marriage. With 4 months until the wedding, I was confident I could build an army that would shock the capital. The military advisor suggests you use your merit in suppressing the rebellion to request that Princess Mingzhu be sent to Baishan County for the wedding instead, Sujio added. Sujio bowed low, whispering, "She hopes you will stay here and avoid the capital." Military advisor Nian wanted to avoid sending me into the first prince's trap. She was certain the emperor would agree, given my recent achievements. A great hero must be rewarded, or the people's hearts would grow cold. Stay in Baishan County and marry her here? I raised an eyebrow. I understood military advisor Nian's concern. The capital was the first prince's territory. Yes, after the wedding, the military advisor will strengthen the Su prince's mansion's influence to force the emperor to annul the first prince's engagement within 4 months, Sujio said. Military advisor Nian knew that Baishan County was my stronghold. Only by remaining here could I support the Su prince's mansion and break the stalemate. My quiet development in Baishan was already a thorn in the first prince's side. Leaving for the capital would play right into the first prince's hands. I realized the plan was sound. Yet, I felt an inexplicable sense of unease, as if something bad was about to happen. "Sit," I commanded. I sat on the main chair, deep in thought. Suddenly, Gao Shun rushed in. "My lord, an envoy from the capital has arrived, claiming to carry the emperor's decree and a letter from the first prince. He demands to see you." I frowned and waved my hand. "Let him in." Gao Shun returned with a beardless imperial attendant, who strutted into the hall with an arrogant air. The attendant walked with a sway, looking down his nose at everyone. Before Gao Shun could introduce him, the attendant pointed at me with a feminine gesture, his voice shrill. "Are you Suyu? Su Long's son?" The envoy's voice was dripping with arrogance and affectation. I stopped Gao Shun from scolding the man and replied calmly, "I am. What business does the envoy have in Baishan? I am here to deliver the emperor's decree and to see for myself what kind of person the useless Su family heir is and how he managed to suppress this rebellion." The envoy paced the center of the hall, eyeing me with blatant disrespect. His narrow eyes were filled with contempt. He clearly held no regard for the supposedly incompetent young master of the Su prince's mansion. Most in the imperial capital still view me as the useless young master protected by my sisters and Su Long. Even after my recent success in quelling the rebellion, most assume Su Long secretly orchestrated it for me. They refused to believe a waste could pacify Baishan County on my own. The imperial envoy's insolence infuriated Gao Shun, who glared at him. "Watch your tongue. A mere eunuch daring to disrespect my master?" If not for the sake of the bigger picture, Gao Shun would have killed him. I remained expressionless, ignoring the envoy's mockery. I wouldn't waste energy on a mere errand boy. The envoy mistook my calm for submission, becoming even more arrogant. "The emperor orders you to the capital within a month to prepare for your marriage to Princess Mingzhu." The envoy sneered, relishing his perceived superiority. Backed by the emperor's decree and the first prince's favor, he acted with complete disdain. "I understand," I replied with a faint, indifferent smile. I knew the first prince would never let me remain in Baishan, forcing me to the capital. It was obvious the decree was the first prince's doing. "Anything else?" Irritated by my composure, the envoy pulled out an invitation. "The first prince has long admired your sisters. He has received the emperor's approval to marry them in 2 months. The prince insists you attend, as he misses his future brother-in-law dearly." Slap! The envoy tossed the invitation on the floor, sneering at the useless me. The gesture was dripping with contempt. Gao Shun and Su Jiu burned with murderous intent at the insult to their master. "Prepare a room for me," the envoy commanded, treating the Su estate like a common inn. He acted with total entitlement, relying on his status as an imperial representative. He felt untouchable, showing no respect to me as the host. I stood and picked up the red invitation. The envoy watched with disdain, noting the official, cold tone of the invitation signed by the first prince. It wasn't an invitation, it was a declaration of war, a trap to force me to the capital. "Rip," I sighed and calmly tore the invitation to shreds. "You dare? I will report this to the emperor." "You're finished," the envoy shrieked in rage. I ignored him, calmly returning to my seat. Gao Shun, informed the public. Bandits attacked the envoy upon his arrival, and he has tragically succumbed to his wounds. I sipped my tea, my voice chillingly detached. The envoy froze, stunned by the implication. Gao Shun drew his blade. My master means you are already a dead man. You wouldn't dare? I represent the emperor, the envoy stammered, terrified. This is treason. You'll bring ruin upon the entire Su family. The envoy threatened, though his eyes betrayed his fear. He was clearly panicking. Treason? No, you were killed by bandits. My family has always been loyal, I said with a smile. Go tell the king of hell your excuses. Gao Shun stepped forward. The envoy tried to flee, but Su Jiu blocked the door. A mere eunuch daring to insult our young master? Even the emperor can't save you now. Su Jiu's voice was cold as a battlefield. The god of war's son would not be insulted. Spare me. The first prince ordered me to provoke you into losing your mind and rushing to the capital. The envoy wailed, collapsing in terror. He was a broken man, trembling and desperate. His arrogance had completely vanished, replaced by pure dread. So, the first prince's provocation worked. I muttered, gripping my cup. This villain had harmed my father and targeted my sisters. He had to be destroyed. Gao Shun swung his blade. Slash. The envoy's head rolled across the floor, his face frozen in regret. The envoy had never imagined I would actually dare to kill him. I didn't even glance at the corpse. Gao Shun. Present. Gao Shun knelt. Summon Wulong and the generals. We have matters to discuss. My voice carried a cold, lethal edge. Prepare the army. I am going to the imperial capital myself. I had planned to wait, but I could not allow the first prince to take my sisters. A man who couldn't protect his women wasn't a lord worth following. I accepted the challenge. Understood. Gao Shun left to rally the troops. The servants quietly cleared the bodies, ensuring no witnesses remained. I was ruthless to enemies. My mercy was reserved only for my own. Su Jiu stepped forward, anxious. Master, the strategist warned against going to the capital. You'll be walking into a trap. Su Jiu still viewed me as the gentle, non-martial youth he once knew. And you expect me to watch my sisters be forced into the arms of a thief? I asked, my eyes cold. The intensity of my gaze made Su Jiu tremble. Even a veteran like Su Jiu couldn't meet my eyes. To me, my family was my absolute bottom line. With the deep bond one shared with my sisters, I could not sit idly by. I had already beaten Andrew for insulting them. The first prince's actions were an unforgivable escalation. Su Jiu tried to speak again. Su Jiu, I interrupted. Remember, there is no retreat. We must rely on ourselves. I will crush the shadow over the Su estate. If I die in the capital, the Qingtian Empire will burn with me. My words were heavy with authority and resolve, leaving Su Jiu stunned by the weight of the burden my master carried. With the Orc Empire pressing in and the first prince plotting against the Su prince's estate, I stand alone. I must forge my own path out of this dead end. I will not retreat, even if the path is paved in blood. Su Jiu finally sees his young master's true nature. While the world calls me a cripple, Su Jiu knows I have awakened the blood of the Su family. I burn with the desire to fight for the Su name in the imperial capital. Are you afraid, Su Jiu? I asked, sipping tea calmly. I have no fear. I will protect you with my life, my blade, and my unyielding will. Su Jiu kneels, his eyes fanatical. My resolve has given him hope for the future of the Su prince's estate. He will become a man even greater than the god of war, Su Jiu thinks. I smile. I admire you. I am not one to suffer in silence or endure humiliation. If the first prince insists on oppression, we will meet head-on. A man should not fear such a battle. Life and death are in the hands of heaven. If they want to fight, we fight, I declare. I order my servants to summon Zhuge Liang and the others. Zhuge Liang and the commanders gather at the Su estate without delay. They assemble in the hall, each a vital pillar of my forces. The situation in the capital has shifted, I announce. I leave for the imperial capital tomorrow morning. Gao Shun will lead 800 traversing camp soldiers to accompany me, while Yang Mingwei and 5,000 Jinyui provide support from the outskirts. Su Nan, Zhang Jiaoyang, and Ling Yu will hold the border with the Huban army and the repeating crossbow legion. I breathe deeply. If this trip is peaceful, so be it. But if it comes to war, I will exhaust the strength of Baishan County to rescue my family. I have mobilized the majority of Baishan County's military might. Aside from standard garrisons and reserves, My elite forces are now on full alert. We swear to die for our lord. The commanders roar. They are unafraid of war. Su Jiao is amazed that in just half a year, I have gathered such a formidable force. I turn to Zhuge Liang. Master Zhuge, I am here, he replies respectfully. While I am away, you govern Baishan County. Prioritize the people's livelihood and use your discretion regarding military deployment. I smile. My safety in the capital is now in your hands. Because my family is held hostage, I must risk entering the city rather than declaring open war immediately. I trust my entire rear guard and my own life to Zhuge Liang. If war erupts, Zhuge Liang must manage the big picture. He must rescue me while seizing the initiative on the battlefield. This command shows my absolute faith in my strategist. I will ensure your safety, Zhuge Liang vows solemnly. I dismiss the others to speak with him privately. I leave the production lines for tobacco and alcohol with Zhuge Liang, instructing him to build merchant caravans to generate wealth for the county. They finalize plans for city development and long-term strategy. They spend the night analyzing the capital's political landscape and the strength of Baishan County. The next morning, I depart with Gao Shan, Su Jiao, Lingener, Shangwan Waner, and several hundred servants. They head east toward the imperial capital. Traveling under the guise of fulfilling a marriage contract, they maintain a steady pace. I do not waste this time. I spend the journey in my carriage, cultivating using my accumulated public support energy. Lingener and Shangwan Waner guard the carriage on horseback. 9 spiritual vortices manifest, drawing in massive amounts of energy, amplified by the true Emperor Scroll. The carriage becomes a mobile fortress of dense spiritual energy. The entire retinue benefits from the overflow. Upon nearing the capital, I stop, receiving a flurry of system notifications. I have broken through to the peak of the Ninghun realm and reached the peak of the Baishui realm, consuming 163,542 points of public support energy. I am now one step away from the Ranshan realm, with 110,000 energy points remaining for emergencies. I am satisfied. Young experts at the Baishui peak are rare in the capital. Most geniuses take decades to reach this level. Many fail to reach it even in their 20s. In half a year, I have transformed from a known cripple into a peak Baishui martial artist. The system was right, I think. With enough time and energy, I can break through rapidly. I clench my fist, eager to see the shock on the faces of those in the capital. As they approach, the roads fill with commoners heading home for the evening. The crowd moves hurriedly as dusk falls. I bring the 2 women into the carriage, enjoying tea in the fragrant, quiet space. Gao Shun, how far to the city? I ask. 20 miles. We will arrive before dark, Gao Shun replies. I order the troops to dismount and enter on foot to remain low-key. Though slower, this gesture is appreciated by the locals. Gao Shun ensures the troops occupy only half the road, leaving space for the commoners. Is that the Su Prince's carriage? The people whisper. Look at the emblem. It's definitely them. No wonder the nobles are walking. The Su family is always kind to us. The people watch with curiosity and favor. The Su Prince's estate is known for its benevolence toward the common folk. The soldiers and servants walk with pride, buoyed by the public's respect. They enter the city before dark. As they navigate the bustling streets, the first prince receives word of their arrival. In his study, the first prince hears the report. Master, Suyu has entered the city with only a few hundred guards. Should we kill him now? A blood guard knelt before the first prince, whispering with murderous intent. He has finally arrived. The first prince set aside his scrolls, waving a hand. Leave him for now. His recent fame is too great. The emperor will surely summon me upon waking. My pacification of Baishan County had made the first prince cautious. In the prince's eyes, I was already a dead man. My return to the capital merely delayed the inevitable. My return to the capital felt like self-sabotage, which actually eased the first prince's immediate urge to kill. I thought you'd grown smarter, but you're still foolish enough to walk into a trap. The capital is easy to enter, but impossible to leave. The first prince sneered, ordering, "Tell the madam to prepare. Since she is the mistress of the Su prince's estate, let her test my strength. Keep the estate under close watch, but do not touch anyone yet. Killing me now would incite panic among the capital's nobles and dukes. They weren't fools. If I died upon arrival, they would know it was the first prince's doing, making him a master who slaughters loyal subjects. The first prince would not risk his grand ambition by attacking the estate before his ascension. He planned to suppress me until he ascended the throne, then eradicate the entire estate once the dust settled. Understood. The blood guard vanished silently. Young master, we have arrived at the estate. Gao Shun stood by the carriage, addressing me. After an hour in the crowded streets, the convoy finally reached the Su prince's estate. Strangely, the estate was dark, the heavy wooden gates shut tight, as if everyone were asleep. I stepped down, frowning. Did they not know I had returned? I knew the first prince had been alerted. Surely the mistress of my own home knew as well. My stepmother ignores me, keeping the gates locked? It's cold outside, master. Shangwan Wanner and Ling Aner stepped out, draping a white cloak over my shoulders. I patted Wanner's hand. Gao Shun, call for the gate. Yes. Gao Shun and his guards hammered on the door. The young master has returned. Open the gates at once. After 7 or 8 shouts, the gates creaked open. An old servant with a lantern peered out. Who's making such a racket in the middle of the night? The old man scanned Gao Shun with disdain. Whose men are you? This is the Su prince's estate. Get lost. You blind fool. The young master is home, and you dare tell us to get lost? Gao Shun's killing intent flared, causing the servant to collapse in terror. Our young master is a lord in Beishan County. Don't you dare act out, or I'll call for help. The servant shouted, trying to bolster his courage. I've only been gone a short while, and the servants no longer recognize their own master? I stepped forward, locking eyes with the servant. I didn't recognize the man. He must have been hired during my absence. Master? You brat, you think you're the young master? This is the home of the god of war. We won't tolerate imposters. The servant grinned maliciously. He retreated inside, shouting, help. Someone is causing trouble at the Su prince's estate. Drums and gongs erupted. The dark estate instantly blazed with light. A mob of armed servants swarmed out, glaring at me. They looked at me with hostile, twisted smiles. Look, this man is shamelessly impersonating our young master. Take him. The servant pointed at me. The mob roared, brandishing weapons. Gao Shun drew his blade, and Ling Aner gripped my sleeve in fear. Shangwan Wanner held my hand, her eyes cold as she surveyed the mob. Both women were bewildered by the hostility I faced at my own home. I want to see who here dares to lay a hand on me. I smiled. A new steward? And the stepmother is a Su? A surprise, welcome indeed. Blocking the gate with new servants? Truly a wonderful stepmother. Seize them. They must be spies from the Orc Empire. The steward sneered, feeling emboldened by the madam. Grab the women. I'll search them myself to see if they're hiding weapons. The steward's eyes roamed greedily over the two women. The women flushed with shame and anger. My expression darkened, blocking my path and eyeing my women. It seems people have forgotten who owns this estate. A cold, murderous light flashed in my eyes. Steward Su, you dare block the young master? Do you have a death wish? Sujio stepped forward, furious. Don't think the madam can protect you from everything. This is the Su prince's estate. Sujio was one of the 9 elite guards of the god of war. His presence carried significant weight. Recognizing him, the steward faltered but kept his smirk. Oh, Sujio, I am just the steward after all. So it really is the young master? My apologies, I was blind. The steward's tone remained insolent. The mob sneered and stepped back. Despite the admission, they clearly still held no respect for me. They were all the madam's kin, brought in over the last 6 months, and they despised the old guard. Recognized me now? I asked, staring at the steward. Since Sujio vouches for you, I apologize for my poor eyesight. The steward bowed perfunctorily, his eyes still leering at the women. He felt untouchable. Too late, I said coldly. Gao Shun, present. My order, charge the estate. Kill these wicked servants. My voice was domineering. I want to see who dares to toy with me in my own home. I had no interest in explaining. I would use force to reclaim my house. If they chose to act as the madam's pawns, they would pay the price. Yes. Gao Shun roared. Charge. Kill anyone who stands in our way. 800 traversing camp warriors drew their blades, bloodlust surging as they marched forward. The house servants turned pale, realizing they were no match for the disciplined, traversing camp soldiers. "What are you doing?" "This is the Sioux Prince's estate," they cried. Steward Sioux stepped back, shouting, "Sioux, you dare attack your own estate? Aren't you afraid of Madame Sioux's wrath?" "Slap his mouth," I ordered calmly. Su Jio flashed forward, sneering. "A lowly slave dares address my master by name?" Dot. Smack. Several heavy slaps left the steward dazed and seeing stars. The steward coughed up blood and teeth. As Su Jio drew his sword, the steward begged, "Don't kill me. I'm the madam's kin. You'll face retaliation." I remained unmoved. "Kill. I fear no one from her family. These outsiders playing games in my home deserve death." I commanded. Su Jio decapitated the steward before he could react. The head rolled, the face frozen in despair, staring at the remaining servants. Panic erupted among the servants. "Gao Shun, kill them all!" Gao Shun roared. 800 traversing camp warriors charged like tigers into a flock, blades flashing. Despite their weapons, the untrained servants were no match for the battle-hardened soldiers. As the slaughter began, the servants dropped their weapons, begging for mercy. It was the madam and the steward's orders. "We're innocent." They knelt, trembling, their arrogance replaced by sheer terror. Faced with absolute force, their schemes were useless. I remained silent. Without a stop order, Gao Shun accelerated the massacre. Su Jio intercepted those trying to flee, cutting them down without hesitation. I grabbed a servant, who collapsed in terror, pleading for his life. "Speak. Where is everyone? Why was the estate locked against me?" I demanded. My cold gaze forced the servant to comply. "I'll talk. Just don't kill me. The madam ordered us to drive you away, claiming you were too soft to retaliate. She wanted to humiliate you." I was stunned. With my sisters and military advisor Nian present, how could the vicious stepmother seize such control? Why hadn't the Black Jade cavalry intervened? The situation was deeply suspicious. I kicked the servant. "Where are my sisters, Nian, and the Black Jade cavalry?" "The old servants were dismissed days ago. The madam sent your sisters to Qinghai Cliff and the Sword Pavilion 3 months ago, accompanied by the Black Jade cavalry." The servant spilled everything he knew. The vicious stepmother had systematically isolated the estate to seize power. She planned to ambush me with the first prince's help. "Where is military advisor Nian?" The servant hesitated, his face turning deathly pale. I drew the true emperor's sword, pressing the tip to the servant's forehead. "Tell me." My voice dripped with killing intent. After Su Jio left, the madam used soft qi-dissolving powder to cripple Nian's Qin Dao and stole her instrument. She didn't dare kill her, so she imprisoned Nian in her bedroom, whipping her daily. She said she wanted everyone to see the price of defiance. The servant's voice trailed off in terror. He felt a murderous aura radiating from me, like a wild beast ready to tear its prey apart. My eyes turned blood red with unprecedented rage. The woman who raised me like a mother was being tortured daily. Vicious woman. I clenched my fists. I had truly resolved to kill. No man should tolerate such humiliation of his loved ones. Slash. The true emperor's sword flashed. The servant fell, dead instantly. "Gao Shun, wipe out these outsiders. I want no Sioux servants left." I marched into the estate. Shangwan Wanner and Ling Aner followed, while Su Jio opened the gates. "Kill without mercy." Gao Shun roared, his men echoing the cry. The soldiers, fueled by my rage, slaughtered the remaining servants. The sounds of battle echoed through the nearby streets. The capital's night market grew tense. Su Jio lit a lantern to guide me. "Who goes there? How dare you trespass?" servants inside shouted. They were all strangers, brought by the madam. As they charged, I swung my sword. A sharp blade of light cut through them, killing them instantly. "Enemies! Call the household soldiers," they screamed. A squad of soldiers in red armor, marked with the Sioux crest, appeared. The Sioux family red-clad army. My eyes turned cold. These were the madam's private soldiers, strong, but only at the peak solidification realm. "Su Jio, look at this. My home occupied by these vermin. What a disgrace." "Let me handle them," Su Jio offered. "No, I will cleanse this filth myself," I replied, heading for the West Chamber Pavilion. The madam was inside. "Stop. Surrender now," the red-clad commander shouted. The commander stood proud, acting as if he owned the estate. "You're right. This is no place for outsiders. My killing intent surged. A powerful internal force erupted from me, the peak Baishui realm. My aura swirled, and the true Emperor's sword glowed brilliantly. A Baishui realm expert. The commander stumbled back, trembling. Why was a Baishui expert attacking? You are at the Baishui realm. The red-clad army general pointed at me, shouting, I underestimated you. But this is the Su prince's estate. How dare you trespass and bully women in the absence of the god of war Su? I've already notified the first prince. He will come to execute you. I am Su Yu, I replied coldly. The general's face drained of color. You are Su Yu. The red-clad army soldiers stood stunned and embarrassed. The general turned pale, speechless. I had returned. The young master of the Su family was back. I am Su Yu, and I have a sword to slaughter all who insult me. I roared, kill. Jinhuang's sword shadow. A cold, furious voice rang out as the Jinhuang precious sword erupted in golden light. I slashed, sending ripples through the air. Sharp, beautiful, yet lethal sword light rained down like a storm. Hundreds of red-clad soldiers fell instantly. Form up. He's a martial arts waste, not the real young master. Kill him. The general screamed, his arrogance replaced by a pale, ferocious desperation. He ordered his men to swarm me. But, swish, the Jinhuang's sword traced a lethal arc, decapitating the general. I didn't waste time. I had people to save. Thud, the headless corpse hit the ground. The soldiers trembled in horror. He killed the general, a peak Ninghun realm expert, in one strike. They scattered in terror. If the Black Jade cavalry were here, no one could invade, but these red-clad soldiers were no match for me. I advanced with murderous intent, my eyes filled with bloodlust. One step, one sword strike. Each strike claimed 10 lives. My white robes stained with blood, I looked like a demon from the abyss, bringing only despair. Young master. Aner can feel his rage. Ling Aner gripped Shengwan Waner's hand, watching my back with deep concern. She had never seen me this angry. Shengwan Waner patted her hand, her eyes fixed on our master. Swish, sword light flashed, and more red-clad soldiers fell. I surged toward the West Chamber Pavilion. Su Jiao, handle the rest. Protect my maids and kill these outsiders. My voice echoed as I left the courtyard. The Su prince's estate needed no outsiders. I was here to reclaim my home. Understood. Su family Iron Guard. Su Jiao is here. Prepare to die. Su Jiao drew his blade, his power erupting. A simple, plain slash cut through the air, silencing the wind. Crack. The space itself seemed to fracture. The courtyard fell into an eerie silence. The soldiers were stunned, their weapons clattering to the ground. Nirvana. Nirvana realm. Someone whispered in despair. First a Baishui realm expert, now a Nirvana realm master, the strongest level below Chuanqi. There was no escape. Splatter, blood sprayed as over 1,000 servants and soldiers fell, each with a finger-sized hole in their forehead. If not for the need to let the young master vent his rage, I would have slaughtered you all sooner, Su Jiao muttered. Su Jiao sheathed his blade and followed me, fearing for my safety. After all, Su family experts were still lurking in the shadows. Inside the West Chamber Pavilion. Wretch! How dare you oppose me? Slap!